Welcome in to session 72 of Adventures in Aanthara. Hello, people. Previously on this D&D campaign that we play, the Twilight Heralds had been seeking truths and answers in the aftermath, really honestly questions as well, because who knows what's going on, they don't even know what to ask yet. In the aftermath of an attack labeled a terrorist attack on the Radiance Gala in Ilmara. As part of this search, they reconvened with an old friend in Sam, who is now back with the party, and also met a new acquaintance. I won't call them a friend because who knows. In Talia, or Natalia Breedlove. Together, they all attempted to make contact with an arcanist named Elena Meridian, who potentially had some information, or at least they hoped, on points of interest, people of interest, things of interest. However, that contact did not go smoothly. It ended up being a series of violent encounters that ended with this arcanist killing herself, leaving behind no means of speaking but a bag of holding full of interesting notes, which the party has briefly scanned, but not too in depth. And shortly after that, Eclipse was invited to the interrogation of one of the attackers from the gala by Rylus Tyrael of the Shaded Wind, having been able to secure her and only her to hold audience for this interrogation. She showed up to that this morning and witnessed a curious development of both questions and answers that seemed to, among other things, implicate Draicar Orion Marquez and a tan-skinned Sildarian woman in the events of the attack. Interestingly enough, just the evening before, the Draicars, someone who claimed to work for or assist the Draicar, and also be related to him, showed up and asked the party to hold audience with him at some point soon. They said they would think about it and get back to her, which they have not yet done. But after the interrogation was completed and Eclipse gave an update to the Heralds, the party all returned to the Chateau de la Rosewood. It's not actually what it's called. The Rosewood Estate, so that Brightwing, for the first time, could set up a scrying ritual with the intent of finding and checking in on Sam's children. So, we pick up in the midst of that ritual. Brightwing, who are you targeting?
Sorry. I know we did the girl.
We talked to Ellie.
We talked to, yeah. I think we're gonna do Basil. He's the younger one.
Mm-hmm. He's only 3.
He's only 3. I don't think. I mean, hey, maybe his wisdom's really
He's
good.
a very wise toddler.
Wise 3-year-old.
Listen, that's a wise age, you know? All right. What's your save DC?
17. Let me confirm, please.
For once, Matt's rolls a natural 20.
For reals. Scrying.
He does get a pretty significant bonus to the save on account of you only know him secondhand.
Oh, does he?
Mm-hmm. +5.
Oh. -3.
I prepared scry. Don't lie to me. I did.
I think it's a 16 or 17.
I think it's 17.
Okay.
It's 17.
Okay. So, as described at the end of the last session, the refracted colors of this crystal that you acquired fade into this mist, this cloud of color that fills your vision. As to everyone else, your eyes go white, I believe you said?
Yes.
And then this color begins to fade, and the mist begins to pull back. And you are looking down from the corner of what appears to be a well decorated, upscale room of a home. You see what, to Leah and the rest of us here, but maybe not so much to Brightwing given her background, looks like almost a playroom of sorts.
Oh.
There are stuffed animals, a rocking horse, a couple small tables with various little bits of plastic toys, things like that, wooden blocks. You see, streaming in from a west-facing window, a little bit of morning sun. And in the center of the room, you see 3 figures. Close enough together that you make out all 3, despite the fact you're only scrying on one of them. You see a young toddler-looking boy, about 3 years old, a sort of mop of curly, dirty blonde hair, but that seems to have grown to about shoulder length almost. Just barely bouncing along his shoulders. Light gray-blue eyes, chubby-cheeked, and olive white skin. A few feet away from him, you see a young girl, maybe a year older, darker brown, wavy hair, big green eyes, very familiar eyes to you. Same olive white skin and freckles. Both of them are seated on the ground in front of what look to be almost like a series of child's puzzles. And each of them has like a furrowed look on their face, and are trying to move a ring across a series of winding metal like tubes, or fitting a different shaped blocks into different holes in a small board. They seem curious and focused, and seated a few feet away in a chair, sort of nearer to the wall, you see a very tall Firbolg woman. Late 40s or so, short curly gray fur, in modest, austere robes of dark green, whose one leg crossed over the other has a large leather-bound book of some kind seated on her lap, with a quill and ink that's sitting on a little desk next to her, and just seems to be watching, intermittently scrawling a note or two. Every once in a while makes a comment to them. Not there, not there. Try the other way. And one of the kids will look up. Oh. Try something different. This goes on for the several minutes of your spell, or however long you wish to stay and watch.
I guess a full 10 minutes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It
Is
seems
there
like
any, markers besides the nice room that, has, portraits or, a crest? Something that would indicate, who owns this room?
I will say roll an investigation check.
What? That's Investigation.
This is less your eyes glancing around an area and more you have almost a picture to look through and you're like, where's Waldoing? If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's funny. A 5. Not very good at Where's Waldo.
Okay. You get a sense of decor. Again, it looks like a nice room in what would be a nice house. Well constructed, well decorated, fine like rugs and hardwood. Doesn't look extremely dissimilar from the house you're in right now in some ways, especially to your eye, to whom most places like this look a little more similar.
Is there like a window?
Not that you see. There is
Okay.
light streaming in from one side of the room that you assume is where the window would be, but you don't see it. It's outside
Do I
your
hear
the bubble
anything
of your
from
vision.
outside the window?
No.
Okay.
You would imagine it's probably closed based off how little you can hear of any outside noise.
Okay.
Or it could be that anything outside the range of your vision doesn't actually cross over even in sound. You're not sure because you haven't worked with this spell much before. At all.
But they're look healthy and okay. Is the main concern.
They look like
I guess
normal.
can I do an insight check on them? Like
Yeah, you can roll. What are you trying to sense? What are you trying to sense exactly?
I'm trying to sense if they're like if this place is happy for them, I guess. If they're like you know what I mean? Like they're
Okay.
there and they're doing stuff, but are they actually like chill
Roll an
being
insight
here?
check.
Oh, that's good. Okay. I gotta do my 26, sir.
Ooh wee. Okay. With a 26 and watching them for 10 minutes, which gives you a good amount of facial recognition, comments and sounds they make as they do what they're doing, the sense you get is more like they're more in a mood of kids at school than they are kids at home. In other words, they seem focused on their task like they're supposed to be focused on their task, rather than, you know, they're just doing what they want, running about as kids would be doing. It seems, but by the same token, they don't seem like they hate this school at all. If it were a school, they seem like they're participating in the day's activities, and you don't read any strong sense of
It's more like
fear,
going along with it
concern.
instead of like having
It's
well, you
it's
know, when
more-
you're like going through like a school day, like you're just going on like the schedule of the school, whereas with at home you can kind of have your
yeah,
own kind
they don't, like, if you had popped in and they had been running around the room chasing each other or playing on a rocking horse and fighting imaginary bad guys with a toy sword, there would be a different vibe. This is
Yeah.
more like they've been tasked to do something and are doing it,
Okay.
but are still like curious about it and focused on it.
Okay.
Very much like, you know, decently good behaved kids would be at school, pretty much.
Okay.
And
I guess
after
so.
10 minutes, that cloud returns, and then it fades to darkness, and you open your eyes.
It worked. That was felt very weird. It felt like a bit of an intrusion, but I suppose that's what is the spell. They're okay. They're in a nice room with lots of toys. And I don't know of the race I saw, don't think I've ever met one, but it was more an older woman that had floppy ears and a nose, and she had pink fur.
Gray fur.
Gray fur. I think you could do this.
Do I recall this Furbolg nanny?
Or
Or like a housekeeper?
Roll a history check.
24.
No.
Wow. Got it.
This person does not sound familiar.
They seem to be doing some puzzles. It seems they were more doing education than fun at the moment. But they didn't seem displeased. But it was not what you would assume a child would be in a home. Or in essentially a room full of toys that they could pick from. Does that make sense?
So they're pampering them.
They are very cute.
They are very cute. Yeah.
Your daughter has your eyes.
She does.
Incidentally, given that you met him, her son has their father's eyes.
Yeah. And I see the resemblance of the deputy chief.
Nothing else going on. Just being taught. Being nannied.
Is that the term?
That is the term, yeah.
And I guess they were nannied, yes. They didn't look sad. They looked content. But I now know what they look like. So if you would ever want me to send a message, I can do that and let them know that you are alive and you love them. I know that might cause some complications, but
yeah. They're not old enough to know what's happening anyway.
I think they're old enough to miss you, though.
I hope so. Thank you.
Sorry that... You're welcome. I wish I could do more. If I had the power to teleport them here right now, I would do it.
That would be the best solution, huh? Just poof, they're here. just
I
glad they're
guess.
safe.
They are. They are safe and they are comfortable. I guess it's the for the best for right now.
I guess so.
Sam, roll a wisdom check for me.
Maybe it's not good. That
And
dice
it's
from
not
the
the
table.
best for right now.
It's not good. Wisdom 6.
Yaks.
6.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I suppose what now? Do we meet with the Draicar?
Do we trust the Draicar? If I'm sorry, go ahead.
There's things to consider. If he was responsible, he would be somebody that would be able to replicate another individual quite easily, I'd think. So the question is if we believe that he sprouted this attack on himself.
This very good point. Why would someone of great illusion do the very bad job of disguising themselves, doing bad things?
As somebody else would expect that somebody is pretending to be them. Both are entirely possible.
Like reverse psychology. Like,
Mhm.
no one would expect it to actually be me. They
Oh no.
know if it
Oh,
was
no.
me, would be stupid
Oh.
enough to disguise as themselves.
Mhm.
Oh, man.
You came through. It caught up.
Okay.
So the question does boil down to, do we trust the Draicar? Do we believe that the individual that we had any sort of an interaction with on the night of the gala was the Draicar?
We were going to do the test with the note and the sending.
That is
that's
correct.
right.
We were
Should
going,
we? Ooh,
we were going to write a
if
funny
it's-
phrase on a note and have him read it back to us.
Hey.
Mhm.
Know what we can do? You know how we were discussing whether or not that was a real person that we talked to?
Mhm.
What if you send that to her and I send to him, and if they at the same time, and if it's the same person, then we'll know. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're thinking that the person that came to visit with us, the woman, is actually the Draicar in disguise.
I don't know, but
Oh, that's a... Oh. There's so many possibilities.
I
We know
it
that
was not-
Sam wasn't there. Based on the accounts that were given from what Eclipse told us from the recollection of events from whoever hired the Flashfire crew. So if we know it wasn't Sam, obviously they're just trying to stir the pot, whoever it is. It's just a matter of whether or not it was this specific person.
It was a tan woman with a Sildaran accent.
Right.
I highly doubt that. It couldn't have been another. It's very possible.
what if it
We
was?
assume it's Sam.
What if people spot a tan Sindarian woman, but it's not Sam?
Do you have a twin?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, they perhaps evil. Okay.
Good to think
Oh,
you're
no,
in
no,
love.
no, you misinterpret.
There
If
you
they
are. I
are,
was your twin for like 4 days.
that is my
That's-
point.
It's true.
What if,
I
like,
would be pleased.
that they're trying to deceive the law? What if we try to deceive them by giving them an actual person that they are deceiving with?
Who are you and what have you done with Brightwing?
Does that make sense?
Like actually wanting to lie
I'm not. Well,
on your own accord.
that is true.
That's what deception is.
Mhm, mhm,
I'm not saying it's a
that's
bad idea,
true.
I'm just curious. Is that actually
He's
you?
he like kind of has a 1,000-yard stare with their head in her hands. Like, what?
Anyway, I'm sorry.
Well,
continue.
like, I understand because Sam is endangered, but if we give them someone else to point the hand at,
I'm not complaining, I'm observing.
okay.
Are you suggesting we find the actual person responsible? I mean, that would be a lovely goal.
That is a great goal, but we have someone that can look like Sam right now, points to Nas.
Oh, you're saying turn us in as a...
No. Just
You
have
would get the
people...
rewards, to be fair.
No. Like they said they spotted Sindarian women. What if they spot a different Sindarian woman?
Called out.
And so now they have more people to look for. But one, you know what I mean?
We could all be
Mhm.
dark-skinned Sildarian women.
That's
True.
true. And we
A lot
have
of people could be. It's a large range.
You know, as like,
Yeah.
you know, there are certain animals that disguise themselves as other animals through, like the coral snake and the whatever the other snake's called that Brightwing knows the name of. I don't know.
Yeah.
Coral and a king snake.
A king snake. They are very similar looking, but they are different in their ferocity or danger.
I think things just don't add up. Beyond the scripting that was clearly implemented, and beyond the fact that those people, we took them out, and I did not sense a single bit of, shock, fear, nothing. With the way that we attacked them, there's no way they wouldn't have some kind of an emotion behind it. It
What?
just doesn't make any sense.
They were scared though, right? They ran
They were
away.
when they were dying. They weren't when they talked at the interrogation.
One ran away.
Yeah.
I will also throw out there, by the way, because you had previously mentioned it, Eclipse, and rolled really well on it, that you did get a sense that they were almost disconnected from their actions to a degree, and
Yeah.
you had put together some thoughts that maybe they weren't fully in their own autonomy.
Which then compounds into the
Necessarily.
scripting, because it just doesn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same as when we talked to the assassins. There was spite, there was anger, there was recognition, there were multiple things that registered. Hey, you did this to me. None of that happened. There was no accusation. There was no pointing the finger at us, which would have been logical because we were there. That would have made
This is a good
sense.
point to follow. We did just encounter somebody that has a way of, as was spoken of, affecting the dead,
Yeah.
almost as if they could be coached and adjusted. What if these riflemen were already dead?
That also
What
wouldn't
if
surprise
they
me.
were brought back and then put on this
This is
duty?
what the research said, yes, that they were.
Just trying to pair it together. If there's any reason as to why that could have happened, is because the reaction didn't happen in the first place. I don't know. It's hard to make heads or tails of all of it, but
Matt, should I cast any radiant magic?
You
did some
Flame.
Sacred
plant
Flame.
growth twice.
Yeah, I think you
Yeah.
did do a Sacred Flame or two. Did you cast Spirit Guardians at one point?
Yeah, you.
I'm not sure.
I
I
don't
can't remember.
remember.
I did crit one of them, if I'm not mistaken.
You definitely did crit one of them, which did
And I don't
radiant
remember it
damage,
doing more
yes.
damage. You did not mention it doing so.
What did it look like? They were like, you know,
I mean,
radiant
he
damage.
kind of died right before it happened, so like, it's
Yeah,
really
that
hard
guy
to
got
say.
blasted off
That
of
guy
radiant
doesn't
The
spears.
exist.
was more from them like actively dying
Yes,
than
Uh-huh.
the radiant
That's fair.
damage.
I
Also,
don't distinctly
bug
remember
people-
Matt saying it was more effective than anything else.
Yeah,
Not all undead are affected by radiant in that way, though.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
true.
Also true.
Anyway, I guess it does go back to Faye's original question of do we trust the Draicar?
I
We
don't
can-
trust
we can
any of
follow-
them, but
Do we trust the Draicar the leastest?
no.
No.
The least most? Whichever way I'm trying to
He's
say.
not. He's not at the bottom of the list.
Okay.
Not at the
that-
bottom of
I
the
am,
shady list.
I am more
Top?
curious about
Thank
him
you.
than not trusting of him at the moment.
He went from the top of the spooky list to near the bottom in terms of how you
Yeah.
guys spoke of him at the party where you had found his stasis illusion. Again,
That was. Yeah.
and there were people taken out there. Again, if he was part of it, and that was all for show, cool. It just seems a little excessive to point the finger at him and Sam. Why would you rope her into
It's
it?
convenient. It's just
Yeah.
very convenient.
Yeah.
It's if the Draicar is in your way and another person is in your way, it makes sense to put a bullseye on both.
Well, and
Exactly.
perhaps
Two
the
birds, one
Draicar.
gun.
What if we are aware of multiple Draicars being in cahoots? Perhaps they approached the Draicar of Illusion and divulged some of their plans, and he declined to join with them. And this was an attempt. Well, they would know that not. They would have had to have known that this could have been a warning, but they would have had to have known that Rifleman would not have taken out one of the most powerful magic wielders on the continent. So it's either a warning, it's a message to the nobles of Kathos. It's something. It was a message for sure. But
Showing the powerful, they're not invulnerable.
correct, valid.
Well,
I think confirming the
seems-
Draicar's identity should be the top.
I agree.
I don't think
If-
the messaging at the same time is a terrible idea. I think we
I
have more
think
than enough resources to
brilliant.
send to both. We send them two
I
different
think so.
messages, two different sendings. If they
Ooh.
read the same message, then it's the same person.
Oh, so like mine says
Yours would say one tongue twister, or some similar childish rhythm rhyme, and then Faze would say the same, like a different one.
and then we're
And
like,
then you would send to yours, she would send to hers. We would determine if they are in fact the same person, because then that person should end up with two pieces of paper.
yes.
Okay.
Whether or not it's a bunch of overthinking, it's fine. We can get more paper.
I think
I-
right now overthinking is
I'm-
okay.
Okay
Yeah.
with yes, I agree.
So,
When you
no.
use the paper, can you? It's not like when you finish writing and it just sends,
Nope.
right? Like we can.
We determined that it is as soon as you tear the paper. So you can write on two separate sections of the paper and then tear them at the same time,
Okay.
and it will send. Or one after the other. Either way, you can write the messages accordingly and decide who it's going to. And it will take time for it to disappear. So,
Do we
I
do that
don't
right
think-
now?
I don't think that Faye or Brightwing should send the paper. I
No.
think somebody that didn't meet the Draicar should send the paper.
I don't think that's possible.
I look at Sam.
I saw Isabella, right? I was like walking through, like, oh, look at that woman.
She was in a different room.
She
right?
was in
Yeah.
a side room.
Ah,
You
yeah.
may have
I
seen
don't
her
think any of
leave because she
us-
walked out through the main hallway, depending on what you were doing after everybody got home.
Mm-hmm.
That's up to you, I would say. Were you standing in the main hallway?
Just standing there.
Yeah,
Just
waiting for
waiting.
Were
Khaing
you
and
in the
Brightwing?
tub? No, you were in the shower.
I was in the shower.
You were in
Oh,
the
you
tub.
went straight to the showers.
I
Yep.
went straight to the showers.
Yeah. Okay.
like
So you
Legally
probably have not
Blonde.
seen her then.
So. Because yeah, you should be able to write to some. I don't know if you can to someone you don't know though.
What
I
if
mean,
we both
technically, I
just
guess
do to
we
the
did.
opposite person? Like if I write a message to that would be fine. I'll write the message to Isabella. You write the message to the Draicar, and then I will send to the Draicar, and you send to Isabella.
Okay.
Okay.
That works.
Got that, Matt?
No.
Didn't think of
Okay.
this, did you?
Are you guys doing this
So-
right now?
So Megan needs to write a message down and send it to Matt and tell him that it's for Isabella.
Okay.
And
You-
Leah needs to
Ah,
write one
uh-huh.
to send to Matt for the Draicar.
Okay, okay.
Can't you
Alright.
send it to a person by name? Can't you do that?
I believe.
Because if that's the thing, the entire thing this is testing is if the people that Faye and Brightwing had interacted with are the actual people. So people that did not meet them should be the people to send the papers, and then they cast sending to the people they believe they are to confirm the identity.
So, unless Eclipse, you see anything in the description of the item that says differently, the papers would work off a similar mechanic as the spell sending.
It
Which
immediately
requires you
appears
To be
at a
familiar with
location
the
chosen
creature.
by the user, or within or 5 feet in front of the creature chosen by the user that they are familiar with.
Yes, okay.
Both say
there
that
it
they
is.
are familiar with. So this has
Yeah.
to go to someone that they
Same
have
as
met.
sending. Correct.
The only time it doesn't is, I believe we determined it would just go to the owner if you don't know.
If you designate it to no one and you have 2 connected scrolls, it would go to the person with the other scroll.
Yeah, which is how we did with the other one that we ripped and sent to.
Correct.
How
a test.
familiar is the general public with somebody like the leadership of Kathos if they've never met them but they know who they are?
Not.
Not enough.
Not in this regard, no. Like, you couldn't... If we could cast sending, we couldn't cast sending to LeBron James or
Mm.
Okay.
Kamala Harris.
Is it? Yeah.
USA,
It,
by
it
the
would
way.
be it would
It's
be it would
Olympic
be
time.
never ending for those guys.
I mean,
We're
it's,
tinfoil
True.
hats.
Yeah, that would be rough for those for
Bandman
famous
would be
people.
hell.
Yeah.
is the idea just not recognizing the handwriting? Is that the concern?
No, the concern was that if there's a preconceived notion, if I introduce
who you're
myself to
sending
you
it
as
to.
Yasnip and you
Right.
send a piece of paper to Yasnip and somebody else sends to Yasnip, you're still sending it to the same person because that's who you believe them to be.
Right. Well, I never met the other lady, but I did passively meet the Draicar. So that could work. That I never met her, but I did meet him.
It still breaks it off of that same thing because the person you met is who you believe the Draicar to be, not
Yes.
who the Draicar
So
is.
what I think Brian is saying,
The
let me know if
familiarity
this
is getting
helps
in the way.
clarify.
Yeah, familiarity's getting in the way.
Well, familiarity with a particular person is getting in the way because if, let's say that Nas was pretending to be the Draicar at the gala, and you sent to the figure that you met at the gala, it's possible that that would go to Nas rather than to the actual Draicar. And
yeah, but that's
so
what we're determining, isn't it?
That's
if someone is
yes.
impersonating someone, yeah, that could be the it.
Yeah, that was the point of the paper and the sending. Is that if they have the paper, they can read it, which indicates that that is the same person. That was just the Draicar, though.
Mm.
The lady getting involved is just us determining if that was the person that was the same. But
It's worth noting, Faye and Brightwing are the 2 people who are familiar with both people.
I
by
think
the
that's
way.
what he's trying to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Is that
They're the
because of
only
the
2 who are
familiarity
familiar
the
with
two of
both.
them.
Because I don't think anyone else talked to the Draicar at the party. Although,
He was there, though. That's the problem.
yeah,
We
seeing
can be
him
familiar
in
with him because he was
person-
there.
Yeah, seeing him in person, witnessing him do certain actions, including some big-ass magic, I would say is probably enough to get him into your familiarity zone. You don't have to be friends with them. In fact,
It's not the friend zone, it's the familiarity zone.
yeah.
Familiar zone to me.
It's
It's
the
even
gray
worse.
area between friend and stalker. It's very, very
It's the gray area between friend and coworker,
Mm.
which
Which
is the
I think
worst
is why we
life.
were also willing to make it the two of them, because they've both talked with both of these people. So it's not as
Mhm.
strange for them to do this as it is for like one of us to do it.
But
We'll
with
raise
the paper,
less red flags.
that's fair. With the paper, do they know who the sender is the same way that they do with sending?
No, not unless you
Okay.
sign it in some way. And even then, it could be forged theoretically.
Yeah. That's why it's
There's-
less
Could we-
reliable than sending.
Could we just
Sure.
get like Kaliana just to send them both? Like just like, hey, send this to the Draicar
Carlina?
Illusion.
Carlina doesn't know who either of them are.
So my point is, I don't think that with the way that we originally intended with the papers, by sending these to individuals that were physically met, we are not confirming any identities because they are still going to the same person as if we had met them at the party.
If two separate sets of people had met, if
two
like
separate sets of
Yasnip and
people.
Faye had met the Draicar, and if Eclipse and Brightwing had met Isabella, then it would have worked.
Yeah.
I can.
Because then you could have sent to her with Eclipse sending the message, and Yasnip could have written the note with me sending the message.
Because you're both sending to the same people, effectively, off of your own recollection.
So what
And
do
I guess we can just waste time and go.
do?
We just gotta send to him and probably facilitate
Yeah.
it, because we'd have no way to actually confirm his identity.
Okay,
Because
should we-
familiarity is getting in the way.
So should we both send at the same time too, to see if it was the same? Like that
Yeah.
was a different
I
person.
don't think that's a terrible idea because you're still setting the meeting with both of them. So at the
Mhm.
most, it's gonna just corroborate that we want to meet at this time at this place, and then both of them can confirm that that is the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a terrible idea. It's like calling the person and their secretary and doing the same thing. Like it's
Yeah.
whatever.
Then they both
Just-
have it in their book.
Exactly. You can't fuck that up. So
Right.
So it's mid morning right now.
Late morning.
Are we going to try for today? Today's what, Thursday?
Wednesday.
Somebody liked
Wednesday.
to today, didn't
It's
he?
Wednesday, my dear.
He said
Yeah, so
today or
It
tomorrow.
is Wednesday.
I told him that we would let him know by today when we met yesterday. So we do need to probably, time is of the essence. So
I think
if-
today would be fine. The only
Okay.
thing I'm worried
Um,
about is people trailing us there, but we'll worry about that later.
Okay.
Can allow him to set the time. You just say that we're willing to meet, let us know when and when.
Yeah, when and where. Okay.
But to say like today.
Oh, if
Yes.
they said,
Okay.
oh, this is good. We both ask them when and where, and if they're together and they're able to confirm,
That
Then-
makes sense.
they will give us the same answer. But if they're not actually together, then they will give us two separate times and locations.
Holy mackerel.
Easy.
You have bred us to be paranoid, Matt.
You didn't
You
think that
can't-
two
you can't
sending at the same
introduce
time would be
an
so complicated,
all-powerful
but it is.
illusion.
Hold on while I learn how to throw my voice so I can do both at once.
Nope.
Alright. Okay. So we are going to meet up. What do we say? What do we
We
say?
would like to meet today.
Fine.
Where and when would be best?
That's okay. Like to meet today and then where would okay. We count off?
Are you gonna actually say it at the
you
same
gonna
time?
No!
No, don't
no.
say it at the same time.
It was
Well,
No, I
okay.
thought that was the point. That was
In,
the
well,
point.
yes,
Sendings-
yes. No. In
the
game,
sendings
you
are
can
at the
say
same
it at the
time.
same
Yes.
time. Are you going to say it at the same time in game?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I didn't think we were going to be scripted about it. I thought it was just like asking the same questions. But if we want to be
No,
scripted,
but like
then
the
sure.
whole point
No.
is if we send
Yeah.
it at the same
Yeah.
time, we'll
It doesn't
know
need to
if,
be
like,
the same
if
verbiage.
it's the same person, it hits him at the same time.
But if
Well,
it's not
yeah,
the
but-
same verbiage, it'll be even funnier if it's
It's
the
going
same
to go
person.
straight to voicemail, though, is the problem.
Yeah.
Is there call waiting on sending if this is the same person?
We'll test that
Please
later.
hold. The holding
That's
music
the
starts
next
coming
test
through.
after this. We
Another
do it to
user's
ourselves.
online.
and see what happens.
We will get to your sending in the order that it was received.
You were
Okay,
currently
at the same
first
time,
in
we're
line.
like, I want it to be at the same time because I think it'd be really
Okay.
funny.
Okay, we'll write it down on a piece of paper.
Cue
Okay.
cards. Cue cards.
Two cards, and we will. We don't need to say. That's what we're asking. We're both sending the same thing.
Queue
Okay.
time
We
is
are-
approximately
yes.
1 minute.
No,
And
we
who's
need to say
sending
at the
to
exact
who?
same time, Megan.
Okay, ready, set. We would like to meet today.
Go back.
Start over?
Yeah, ready?
You guys, there's a delay. This is never gonna work.
That's what I said.
Just
I've got
forward and
right wing
find out.
at
Meet today.
11 words right now. I've got Faye at 8.
No, it's not.
No, no, no,
Stop
no,
it.
no, 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 no.
Stop, I didn't send it. I didn't finish.
Draicar's going, Jesus fucking Christ, who am I trying to hire?
Okay, but we get it off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so
we would
what do you
like to-
say? Someone tell me what you say.
We say.
We are interested in meeting with you today. Name the time and place, and we will be there.
Okay, and who's sending to who?
I can flip you for it. I don't care.
I'll do the Draicar.
Okay,
I'll send
Okay,
it.
what it is.
The lady.
all right.
Whatever her name. Isabella, I think.
Whatever her name was, I
Whatever
don't
she
care.
was. I
We
don't
just care that she
remember.
exists.
No, she's there. You know.
But the blue one.
That she may or may not exist.
The blue one.
Okay,
The blue one.
Brightwing. After a couple seconds, you hear in your mind. That is good to hear. Tonight, after sunset, if that works for you, at the Rosewood Estate, if that works for you. And about 5 seconds after that finishes, Faye, you hear in your mind, well, it would appear tonight at sunset at your estate?
They want to meet here.
But what time?
Sunset.
Same thing? All around? Same answer?
Is it? Yes, the Draicar said. Yeah. Sorry, I was lost in thought.
No one can keep up with my paranoia. It's so crazy. Oh my god.
We're setting it at the same time. All right.
Shut up.
Pulling
I
out the
was
watch.
waiting.
Alright, who heard it when? Let's go. How many seconds? 5? That's too many. It's definitely the same
Each
fucking
many
person.
voices.
He definitely flubbed that.
Uh,
We'll find out when he gets here. Well, on the other hand, you say it out loud, right? So. When you answer.
Did I say yes? Or should we be like, that's not the best idea because this is my personal home and
It
you're
would be in
wanted.
disguise.
Yeah, it's not that big a deal. If he's gonna get us in trouble, then we've got bigger
This
things
is
to worry about at that
is
point.
safe.
He like comes
I-
as a pizza man.
I would.
It's not that
prefer
kind of
to be
visit.
completely honest. Jesus. All right.
somebody order a large salami.
I swear to God. Anyways. Jesus Christ. Well,
All
we
right.
are kind of back where we started. What
Oh,
are we
hey, our
doing now?
DoorDash is here.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Should I be here for that? Should I make myself sparse for a few hours? just in case they are being trailed. Both of us are not at the same place at the same time.
I mean, you're not you, though. You
You
wouldn't
haven't
be.
been seen as you entering or exiting. No one
Yeah.
knows you're here.
But they're after him.
There's a
Filthy.
treehouse.
There
That
is a
could
treehouse.
be very good. I mean, let's say you were both falsely implicated. There could be an argument for working together. You have mutual goals to clear your own names. Now, being seen together is obviously a valid concern, but this
I
place
think
should
we
be
should
safe.
also put that on the table. Are we going to tell him what I heard? Because honestly, I don't feel like doing that.
Well, technically, at this rate, you're also a criminal. So I think we should all just jump on the bandwagon and let everybody know what happened.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah.
How's she a
But-
criminal? Didn't do
She
anything.
was in an investigation and told not to tell anybody.
Oh, I understand.
And the
I
first
crossed
thing
my
she
fingers
did.
on that one. They can't stop me.
Real.
And these crosses.
Binding.
That was their
Unbreakable
fault. They didn't know what they were doing.
Does it work during a zone of truth? You cross your fingers.
vow. No.
How you do
It
it?
increases your
it just-
DC. Anyways,
Counterspell.
yeah. Counterspell is just a finger cross.
No.
Yeah.
That's
No.
the schematic for counterspells.
Yeah.
Just cross fingers.
Yeah.
No. You don't.
Just kidding, fucker.
Okay. So.
If you guys are comfortable telling him, that is fine. I just don't think it's a great idea, but at the same time, I think it's a hilarious idea.
I would like to see what he has to say before we decide whether or not to tell him.
I think that's
That's
very fair.
He could come out and say, hey, there's these people that are trying to implicate me and make it look as if I am with some Sildarin mistress
That is fair.
doing very terrible things around the city.
Yeah. If he comes out and says it first, then we'll know. But I think it's okay to keep in our
Alternatively-
back pocket in the meantime.
He could also say, there is apparently a Sildarin woman who is trying to get me in deep shit with the Ivory God, and I'm trying to find her so that I can do whatever it is that
But
Draicar do.
but then
we
we
know
can
not to
be
trust
like,
at that
you she's fine. She's really nice. She's
she's
not the
standing
person-
That's behind me, isn't she?
I guess my point is we don't know what's going to happen until it happens.
Yeah.
So we might as well just go with the flow.
Yep.
I don't think
I
this is
just-
something we can plan.
I just don't want it to be one of those moments where we share information we have and we didn't agree on it in the first place.
Yes.
Because that's a terrible place to be, and I don't want to be in that position genuinely ever
Well,
again.
technically, he is the one that is wanting to meet with us, so it is on him to like gain our trust, because he is the one reaching out. Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure if we play the trust card and he has not brought it up yet, it didn't seem like a great idea to just bring it up
We volunteer
without
nothing.
any kind of incentive.
I didn't not trust him. He definitely had his secret.
Yeah.
When speaking. Yes.
Still, is him, or is him somebody else?
We're back to we know about assassinations and nobody else does. And I don't want to do things we shouldn't be doing with that information.
Okay.
I'm gonna go toss some rings.
Alright.
I kind of want to go to the library.
The library?
Riley said we could use the library.
I mean, we also have a bunch of papers from a mad woman who decided to melt to death. Bitch.
True. I just don't know when we're gonna. We could have to flee the city at the drop of a hat, and
It would be nice to have things.
We have nothing
we
To
else
the
to
library.
do.
these are a bit more mobile. I wanted to
I've
see
never-
what she was researching there. Riley
been
said
to
that she
the
was
one at-
researching.
The university. I'd be curious what another one looked like.
All right.
Clips, would you want to go with them? Is it good to have Sam going through the city right now? How do you feel?
You're asking me or you're asking Sam?
I can
That's
stay
good,
with
Sam.
Sam. That's Sam. If you do not, I can stay and keep you company.
I mean, it's whatever to me. I can just hand you all the papers and what I've sort of sifted out so far.
Or we can play puzzle time with the papers here while they go and look.
I was specifically wanting to look at what she was researching for the Elder Relics. That is information that cannot leave the library. Like those
Otherwise,
materials.
she would have had it and it would have been lost.
Mhm.
No one would have known what it was. I think the less of us going there, the better. It's easier to hide our involvement with them with less of us.
Yeah. Do you want to divide the topics? Each tackles
Also not
one?
terrible, yeah.
So you can get the Elder Relics, we can keep sifting through necromancy and the dragons.
And that part when pulls out her dragon book.
Okay.
You have a book on dragons.
I got it I got it for a spell.
Okay.
But it seems very curious. I never really had Legend of Dragons for my people are very few. So it was a very good read, and perhaps it could help.
Perhaps. I mean, anything helps, I guess, when you're not at a library.
Alright. And
I'm gonna cast Sending to Rylus real quick.
Okay.
To make sure and make sure I'm not making that up.
can we have a library card?
Kinda.
Yes, please.
I was wanting to come and do a bit of reading in your stacks. Do you think anyone would have any objections?
Couple moments pass. I certainly don't see why they would, and given what you've done for the wind, I imagine everything we have would be yours to peruse.
I got the premier access card, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
I got the stuff behind the glass.
The
You only
restricted
get that after
section.
being in the donation as well.
I don't even
What?
need an invisibility cloak.
Does anyone want to come to the library with me?
But there was going to be Eclipse and Brightwing as well.
Is that okay?
Oh, okay.
I didn't gather.
I
Oh,
thought
you
I
guys are
said-
gonna. Naz and Sam are gonna stay here and look through the papers. Okay.
That is fair because if something happens here, they are more likely to get out quieter than the rest of us, probably. So,
Okay.
Did you
Um,
want the papers on the Elder Relics, or are you starting from scratch?
Can I have the
that's a
papers on
great
the
idea.
dragons, please?
You want dragons and the Elder Relics?
I think,
Alright.
There you go.
man, we
Thank
had
you
given a
very much.
lot of the research back to Hugo.
we can
So,
ask
He has all
for
of it.
that.
I mean, we could also send to Hugo and be like, "Yo, check in. What you found out?"
Yeah, we could ask for an
In
update on
25
the scroll.
words or
In
less.
25
tell us
words or less.
all-
What did you
Tell us
learn?
everything you know about the
That's-
Elder Relics.
Can you write a really long note?
Oh, that's
Like
true. You could
footnotes
just send him a
of
note.
Footnotes of your research.
Yeah, because
You
he's
can
got a shit
cooperate.
ton of that paper over there. It's way easier to just write that to him. Especially, it's safer over there writing to him than it is to literally anyone else on the continent.
True.
Well, how about Eclipse? You write to your father
Hmm.
and ask if he has any updates in his research, and then we can take that to the library and see.
And we can compile everything.
Yes.
What do you want Sam and I to comb through here? Is it just necromancy then? You're taking
Yeah.
everything on the Elder Relics and on the dragons?
I think it'd be easier to have as much of the Elder Relic research combined, and then we could always take good notes and...
Perhaps you all could decide what we could do for food for the Draicar. I think that might be interesting.
Oh shit, I have to entertain a fucking Draicar. Kalina!
Yes?
We might need the good china.
It's the cat cups. No.
Carlina comes scuttling in. The good China. Yeah, we haven't guessed.
Yes. 2.
All right. Any particular dishes? Is this for dinner?
Yes. Well, we didn't ask if they were eating. Shit.
Perhaps just
Appetizers.
Go do your research. We will
Okay.
research how to do the biological examination of a frog and have our high school seminar.
of a what?
Maybe, just in case things get weird while we're out, do we have the rod? Could we open up?
In the bag of holding.
How long does that?
An hour.
Oh,
Oh, we gotta be real fast.
then maybe not. Okay, well,
We'll figure it out.
we'll be fine. We're going someplace that we're well liked, for once.
Okay. Splitting the party. This side of my screen, although probably not the case in the actual overlay, is going to the Brescivian Conclave to research in the Shaded Winds Library. And these people, as far as what I can see, are staying
These
here,
people.
reading through more deeply Elena Meridian's notes and coming up with a dinner plan. Is that
Sounds
correct? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And
We
break.
and break. We will start with the crew that's going to the library. Are you doing so in any sort of sneaky or disguised fashion, or you're just going as per normal? Okay. We'll let you guys make the trek, and while you do, the Rosewood Estate crew will get an earlier start, so we'll start there. So you guys are going to read through everything that you were able to get off of her and learn what you can.
Yep. Fine comb of the necromancy pages.
Okay. Oh, and did the Conclave crew take the Elder Relic stuff and the dragon stuff?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Okay. I will have one of you roll an investigation check and one of you roll an arcana check.
Can it be the same person?
Did I just do everything from here on out?
I can do investigation.
No, this is the emotional support changeling.
Yeah, this is like you know what? Here's what I'll say. If I will say one person can make each with advantage because they're being helped by the other, or one person can make both not with advantage. As to represent the group.
I'll do investigation. You do
Okay.
arcana.
I'll
And
do
we're
it.
both doing it with advantage?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Ooh.
29.
Damn.
Arcana.
13!
Okay.
Investigation.
All right. Okay.
Look what I found.
I got
So,
it! Things have to be dead!
Oh my god. Good job.
There
Jess.
is a lot of information here. It is on the order of several tens of thousands of words worth of notes, copied bits of manuscript, scrolls, books, etc. So, with that investigation check, it takes a few hours to get through a significant portion of what you're reading through. to somewhat reiterate what Sam got with her cursory check, you quickly identify that the main thrust of the necromantic magic notes are research on new forms of that kind of magic. Not higher power versions, even, but literally new, fundamentally changed versions of what it means to control the line between life and death, the functionality of the physical and spiritual after death. Neither of you is extremely educated on necromancy necessarily. Sam, you do have some background education because you went to a school of magic and you touched on every school. There was like Schools of Magic 101, and you probably took necromancy A once and didn't pay that much attention because nobody does, because it's kind of weird, except the really weird kids who they pay special attention.
Do you think I wasn't a weird kid?
I mean, you are a weird kid, but I don't know if that's that particular direction. Unless you want to say that it was. What exists currently, to what both of you know, in terms of post-life manifestations of imitated life, or unlife, or undeath, all come with a clear set of ground rules and boundaries where no modicum of the soul is returned, very little modicum of the intelligence or autonomy, active mind, any of that of a creature is returned. Even the physical form is not restored in any notable fashion. So this was all very evident in what you fought in the recent delve underground, where everything was in a state of decay and seemed largely mindlessly aggressive, controlled and dedicated to one purpose, a simple purpose: to kill or destroy. You do know that in these practices, the necromancer, or the arcanist who's behind whatever is being cast, maintains a level of control over the undead creatures. But there are also limitations in that respect, and this is getting into the deeper stuff that that high of a roll is able to uncover for you. There is a time limit usually. There is sometimes a limit of concentration, the ability to maintain. Quantities are limited. All of it is very limited in its scope in most directions and functions. You get a lot of that stuff from within these notes because there are, simple books of necromancy. Some of them seem like the kinds of books you would even find in an academic course. But there are also papers from what seem like high-level necromantic arcanists, and some papers even written by Elena Meridian in here. Very much like thesis paper type stuff on the types of things that could be possible, or the ways that necromancy has changed over the years, and the stereotypes or assumptions about this area of magic and how that it holds a different perspective in the public eye, typically, and in the legal realm as well. There are many more laws governing this area, this school of magic, than others. Obviously, you can't blow someone up with a fireball, but that's largely related to concepts of, not harming your fellow man. This is more directly related to the type of magic that is being used. And there are debates, and some of these notes are captured. There are arguments being made by various people about whether there should be so much concern over this. There isn't a... Many people would make an argument that there is a modicum of enslavement that occurs with necromancy, but others, and you get this from some of the papers written here by some of the necromantic arcanists, would argue that's actually not the case because the soul and mind aren't really there. And so it's being infused with some other power. There is a modicum of several theories on what that is, but it's not the same thing as slavery. So there are arguments about that. With a 29, you also get into sections of the work that seem largely like Elena's theoretical notes, taking what is being researched here and projecting it as far forward as she can in the direction that she seems to be attempting to go. From that, you get a sense of intent that she was seeking permanent control over whatever can be created or restored through these magics. The scope of her research and intent seems to initially begin with humanoids, but then extend beyond that to both animal creatures and then other types of creatures entirely. There are notes on what we would consider monstrosities. There are notes even on devils and demons, things of other planes. And there was a lot of conceptualization on control in this way, or through these manners, of creatures of very, very significant power and magical capability even. Which, through much of what you research, you know or you believe to be somewhat unusual. There is typically a level of skill in wielding magic or the ability to maintain the powers a creature had in life that are lost in typical necromantic magic. Sometimes other things are gained, but it is not typical that if you were to raise, for example, someone who was a high-level wizard, that they would have the ability to cast spells in the way that they did prior to death. This research seems intent on breaking that barrier. The prevailing hurdle to that, and there are quite a few notes on this as she theorizes seeking solutions, is that at a incredibly powerful source of arcana, extremely strong, and infused with... It gets a little esoteric and weird here, but deeper, more primal, ancient magics than your typical Wizard 101 type of mage hand control. Some source of incredibly focused, old, powerful arcana would be required to fuel the magic necessary to animate creatures in this way. There are even, I will say with the 29, some postulations about the need for the very powers of creation to be controlled and funneled in order to do this. And you find a variety of notes from specifically Elena on the creatures that she has experimented on. Some of this you connect pretty quickly to what you found in that room. Large beasts, bears, things like that. You easily get the sense that she was not able ever to achieve the level of sophistication and autonomy and imitation of life, if not true life, recreated post-mortem that she was going for in any of those creatures, but that she was making progress in some way. That is the general and deep thrust of what you get. The very high Arcana roll. It takes some time, quite a bit of it, but that's what you gather. Anything that you two want to do and or say while we're here before we move to the library?
As there are fumes coming out of Sam's ears from the amount of thinking in this Arcana, I would like to do some shenanigans.
Okay.
I will ask specifically, could I roll a sleight of hand check against Sam?
Do you not want to say what you're doing?
Well, I can say what I'm doing. I'm putting something on her finger.
Okay. Is it like a ring?
Well, you know what it is. It's like a ring.
Know what it is.
But it's not a ring.
Like a ring.
I don't know what it is.
Okay. Well, whether I succeed or not, she'll see it probably.
Okay, roll a sleight of hand check.
Maybe.
It's not bad. 24?
I don't see it. There's
Cool.
no way I can roll that, and that's below my passive.
Eventually, whatever point that you choose, you would find on your finger, your index finger of the same hand that you use for your mage hand, a full amethyst claw ring made of the amethyst that we found in the cave a while back. For whatever point that you decide to notice it is up to you. But then he'll just go back to books.
I probably don't even notice until I'm done.
I feel
I'm
like
so
this is a
hyper-focused.
yeah. This is a like. At some
I also
point,
write with my
Sam
right
is in-
hand.
Sam is in this
like-
sort of thing where she's like staring down and her fingers are up in her hair and she's like
Yeah.
really deeply engrossed reading something down below, and you just like walk to get some water, walk by, slip it on. She doesn't even notice. Then eventually, when your hands
At the
come
same
back in front of
time,
you,
drop a book, like have it hit the side of her as I drop
Mhm.
another book in front of her. Yeah. It's the vibe.
eventually you see it.
Just kind of stare at it for a few moments. Could at least taking me out to dinner first.
I'm not that kind of man.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. I know it's hard to have family taken away from you. My brother was taken from me, and for only a couple of days. Can't imagine what you're feeling. That was being made for a while now. It started before I knew about your children. But I want to help you. We all do. Sometimes it helps to get grounded for just a moment. remember where you've been, what you've done before. And it doesn't make the obstacle right in front of you any smaller, but it lets you know that you've overcome more in the past.
Thank you. Sort of rub the gem.
So I was thinking duck. Maybe with like
Duck.
asparagus and I don't know. I don't know what this kind of person would like to eat.
I feel like rich people always like lamb as well. So like,
Lamb.
yeah.
Could they do the
And then-
thing where they like carve off the stuff from the leg and then cover it in paper and make it come out completely white, do you think? Matt knows what I'm talking about.
I don't know, I'm not experienced in cooking so fancy, so
I've seen it, but not had it.
maybe like a lamb with a nice sweet and savory glaze. I don't want to get too wild. I don't know people's tastes. You know, something sort of high class but midline.
Do like a surf and turf. There could be some shrimp or something there as well. They could pick it. Maybe a vegetarian option as well. We do have right wing after all.
That is true. It's true.
Would be nice.
Yeah.
Well, back to dead things.
Back to the things. What's kicking me though is power of creation that she needed.
Like origin story. I know there's a talk of a bang versus talk of a being versus something about dust. I
Whatever it is, the magics that were the old magic. More primal, more. It was stronger. I'm wondering if that's why she needed the Elder Relics.
Maybe the Elder Relics have the power of creation to some point, or they were there, or made by them.
Precisely.
Could also be linked in a way to Sky Hall, but I don't want to go on another conspiracy. I don't know how Eclipse does it. I just kind of want to listen and figure it out, and then maybe one time it'll just be like, hey, this attaches here, and then we're fine.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see what they find.
Guess so.
Okay, let's go see what they find. We'll make our way over to the Brashivian Conclave, where after arriving, you guys are just briefly, I'm assuming, say you intend to research and are taken to the library by one of the Shade Seers. Not Rylus, he seems to be busy elsewhere. But eventually arrive there and find it to be a good bit different from the more academic library, as in academy library, that you had seen in Olea. This is a little bit less of a aesthetically pleasing place of study and more a hall to maintain the records of every possible thing that could be maintained. There are rows and rows and rows of bookcases and shelves of scrolls and books and manuscripts that are organized, but this place is not necessarily meant to be. It's not a place where you'd find young people lounging around and studying and drinking tea. It is an old place to maintain old knowledge. One of the Shadeseers the Shadeseer that takes you there points out several others who are roaming and lets you know that you can talk to somebody if you need help finding something. What are you guys doing, looking for, reading?
I think if there is an acolyte there, or like some, maybe that's not the term, but shoot. I mean, I think we gotta shoot our shot to get the info. I mean, the information's here. They know what it is. So, kind of point out some of the notes that we have and just ask to be directed towards deeper research.
Okay. Are you, as a group, staying together and researching some one thing and then switching to another, or are you splitting up and doing different topics? Because I know you brought the stuff on the relics and the dragons, so I don't know if you intend to do both.
I can do the dragon.
Okay.
Divide and conquer.
Okay.
Mhm.
Eclipse?
I do not know if I will be helpful, but I will go where I'm needed.
Okay.
I will, as we separate, I will, touch Brightwing on the shoulder. I've heard tales of dragon's beauty. But to me, they could never beat the color of your feathers. I'll give you a bardic inspiration.
That is really sweet.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't know if this is going to work. You have to do it really fast, guidance.
No, you have. Oh, okay. Well,
Okay.
just grab the nearest book.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay.
Eclipse, you going with one or the other, or are you going to research on your own?
Probably focus more on the elder relics because that seems more relevant.
Okay.
So
All right. I will have. So you speak to an somewhat elderly-looking half-elven woman who. Oh, curious topics indeed. Yes, I could gather a few things for you. Walks you around for a little while, picking a thing up here and there. Eventually, you have each a bundle of papers, essentially, in different bindings and forms, and have a chance to look through everything. So I will have Faye make an investigation check with advantage from Eclipse's help, and Brightwing make one with a D8 if you wish to use it.
Guidance?
I'm making what?
No, this is too
Dang
ongoing
it.
of a long-term thing for that.
It's a cantrip. I can do it.
If
as
you want to
many
make your
times
own investigation check, Eclipse, you can do that if you want to explain to me how.
No,
as-
I just
casting kind of-
I
oh,
was
there
just
you go.
making sure if I'm doing anything or not. If not, then I'm helping.
I'm gonna add a D4 from the primer.
Okay. Yeah, it's up to you, Eclipse. If you want to do your own search, you can make an investigation roll. Otherwise, you're giving advantage to Faye.
I'm giving advantage.
Okay.
So the better one was a 15, so 26 plus 3 from the primer. 29.
29 again.
that what you got?
Wow. 29's from our leading ladies. Okay, and Brightwing?
19.
Okay. As it happens, some of what is grabbed, she indicates, connect to both. And so you end up researching or reading next to each other at a bare, not so comfortable table in the corner. Again, these are not lush couches to drink tea on and study with your homies. But you end up with enough shared documents that you're essentially researching side by side, and at various points there is, oh look, the thing I'm reading has a mention of your thing. A lot of that is attached to the history of both the elders, the elder age, the elder relics, and dragons. Quickly up front, you do find both in Elena's notes and in the texts gathered here mentions of the 6 elder relics that are known. You guys have gotten this information before. There are scrawled notes in margins of copied manuscripts among Elena's work on where the believed locations might be of each of these things. I believe that you guys got some of that from Hugo's notes in the mountain as well, but just as a refresher in case. The star spear, named Otiradon, is suspected to be somewhere at the bottom of the Aristine Gulf, likely lost forever. The Windwalker boots, known as Ventrasil, are likely somewhere in Sildari, possibly in the Valrea forest, though they could be basically anywhere as the dynasty that bore them hasn't been seen for centuries. The Mountain Heart Belt, Mundunir, was last seen in battles throughout the Fall Spine during the War of Spark and Stone over 2 millennia ago. The Springbringer Ring, Naceris, likely somewhere in Mystelion, but the whereabouts are highly unknown specifically as its bearer disappeared from record over a millennium ago. The Circlet of the Unbound Mind, Xeraxia, likely believed to be on the Isle of Asirna in the Ovestian Sea, seemingly swallowed by the curses of the isle and the surrounding seas that have taken many adventurers' lives in the centuries since its last appearance. And the Cape of the Eternal Bloom, named Amiranai. This is one place where you do notice a difference. It notes that was worn by Talia Giordana as recently as the past 20 years, but the one she wears now is a replica and no one knows why. Then, you guys did get into the history of the topics surrounding and underlying both of the things you're looking for. So, I will go through that in detail. Stop me if you need me to stop for any period of time.
I might ask you for spelling.
Okay, I can do that too. Just literally interrupt me with any question. So, some of this is theory because there were not people around for all of it, but most of it is generally accepted by academic circles and cultures. There's obviously conspiracy theorists and people who believe in other things, but this information is the prevailing understanding. At some point, ages ago, when the universe was young and void, the pantheon of gods found the world of Faenir, which is the planet you live on, as a formless, dark canvas. And they transformed that shapeless darkness into beautifully chaotic and primordial realms and populated that creation with the elders, believed to be the first created beings. The elders were expressions and extensions of the gods' own natures, imbued with will, emotion, thought, and creativity, and free of law or society. For millennia after that, they lived in close harmony with and peaceful servitude to the gods, who granted them the ability to alter reality, by tapping into the pure essence of life and power on the face of and within Fainir, thereby allowing the elders to create and wield the first ancestors, if you will, of magic. Eventually, though, the elders, immortal, created to be immortal as the gods were, grew weary of submission to the gods and began to resent them. After thousands of years, they had amassed power even the gods did not understand, shaping and birthing these experimental magics of unforeseen and unknown strength. And at some point, the elders battled the gods in what is known as the Elder Rebellion, in a titanic struggle for self-mastery. A conflict so severe that it shattered time and space into what are now known as the numerous planes of existence. Beaten back by the greater forces and newer magics of the elders, the gods retreated beyond the outer planes in desperation, and in response, the elders drew on their newly forged magical power to wall the gods off from the material plane with what is labeled the Veil, a barrier of inexplicable magical force. This event, readily enough, was called the Veiling, or is known as the Veiling. That began what is referred to as the Elder Age. After forcing the gods beyond the Veil, the elders established their own reign on Fainir and began to exercise their newfound power more freely, altering and shaping creations through magic. They repaired the world that had been broken by their war with the gods and refined creation into the less chaotic, more hospitable form that it bears today. Most notably, they created hundreds of new creatures and dozens of new races of sentient beings to populate their perfected world, including the majority of modern mortal races. However, without the wisdom and experience of the gods, many of their creations were warped, dangerous, or difficult to control, and these monstrous beings evolved quickly over the next several millennia. Chief among these dangerous evolutions were the dragons. Creatures of immense physical and magical strength, they grew as large as mountains and powerful enough to level cities with a thought or a breath. Parallel to the dragons' rise in power, the elders were diminishing as their power waned in detachment from the gods who created them. Eventually, much as it had with the elders and the gods, there reached a tipping point where the dragons rivaled the elders in power, and the elders found themselves in a war for dominion of their world. This is known today as the Dragon War. After 5 years of that, the elders were at the brink of ruin, and in an act of self-preservation, they sought the help of the gods that they had veiled off of creation. In what is now known as the Reclaiming, the gods agreed to aid the elders in defeating the dragons in return for the removal of the veil and the departure of the elders from Fainir. The united front of elders and gods was far too great for the dragons, who were slaughtered en masse, ending the war and wiping dragons from the face of the world. Amidst this period, some mortal champions rose up and were chosen and empowered by the elders with mighty relics that bore deep, deep seeds of their own magic and power to aid them in their war. Not much is known of what happened to these champions after the war. Most of the history of what they did is recounted during that war, and tales of those relics passed on from them to many other times and places, and eventually to the bits of notes you have now. After the war was finished and the dragons were defeated, true to their pact, the elders vanished from Fainir, though it is not known where to, and the gods assumed dominion over the remnants of creation. After that, after the Reclaiming, the gods found curious and loyal worshippers among the created beings left behind by the elders, humans, elves, dwarves, every other race known today. And these younger and less intrinsically powerful beings were more grateful to and awestruck by the gods, and so the gods allowed them to maintain some slivers of access to the magic that the elders had created on a much more limited scale. And following what had happened previously, the gods remained far more detached than they had been with the elders earlier, in the interest of avoiding a repeat of the rebellion from eons past. From there begins much of the history of modern Aanthara, and tales of the elders pass into nothing but academic remembrance, and the understanding of the gods as they are now spread formed the religions that you know today. As for the dragons themselves, there isn't much more in what is found here than both Brightwing, what you have in your book, which happens to be one of the better singular bits of history on dragons, and what some of you might have heard in stories growing up. There is, because it was such a destructive time, there is not much detail that is remembered of them, but they were legendarily powerful, capable of wielding both natural and arcane forces and powers that were rivaled by very few creatures, if any. But through the Dragon War, as far as anyone is aware, they all died. And that is what you get.
Does reading this account of the gods and elders, like, ping anything with Brightwing and the Wilds? Like, reflecting on our own history? I'm just curious.
Roll a d20.
$16.
Okay. You have had a few encounters with people who speak of and or even worship, like in the case of Arianu, gods of the known popular mainstream Cathian or Antharan pantheon. And as you're well aware, none of that pantheon specifically mentions the wilds. And even more than that, you took note of when the pantheon was explained to you, or certain gods were explained to you, that it almost seems like many of them are just little fractures of the wilds that have been given new names or something like that. There is a sense that you get from reading all of this that the wilds is different, possibly separate from this pantheon of gods. There is a sense of raw power, and I wouldn't say chaos because there is order to nature, but just unbridled natural force
Mm-hmm.
that you are familiar with in the wilds that sounds more like how the world was in the Elder Age, before the Elder Age, when the world as we know it was this roiling primordial, unstructured, almost maelstrom of raw power. And that the elders were given the ability to shape it, and out of that came additional structure. But the wilds as you know it feels before or beyond that structure.
That's cool.
Do I get the sense, and this is deep, after the reclaiming, the gods, because they were grateful to have found curious new loyal beings to worship them, allowed them access to slivers of the level of magic that the elders had.
Mm-hmm.
Did we say? I'm trying to read. I was literally like just keyboard smashing. Did the humans or did the creatures created by the elders create their own magic, or did they learn to wield the magic that the elders had created for themselves?
They
Like, how far off the like, so like the gods had, and then they created the elders, and the elders created
Mhm.
their own magic that it obviously had to have come from somewhere, so it's some kind of a distortion from what was originally there. If magic is the same as matter and can't be created or destroyed, they just figured out a different way to access it. Arcana itself.
Yes. So, as you understand it from what you're reading, the elders essentially shaped and structured the raw power of the universe into magic in its structured, almost rules-based form that we know it of in some degree today. Before that, it was just pure, unbridled raw power.
Chaos.
And they gave, yes, chaos. And they gave direction and structure and bounds to it in a sense, and made it so that it could be controlled. So in a sense, they created magic as we know it. They then had granted much of that magic and the ability to access it, if not all of it, to their creations. When the gods reclaimed, they granted pieces of that, but not to the same breadth or depth. So it's the same magic that the elders created the structure and rules for, and the ability to access and wield, but in small streams.
So then, are the gods the barrier to accessing that deeper seed, that refined chaos? Because we're on a drip right now, whereas in the elders we're on more of a stream, whereas in the gods had the bucket. So are the gods then the ones that are pinching the hose?
I would say, probably even specifically from some of the notes that Elena has, and from papers similar to the academic theses and papers that Sam and Nas were going through, that there is postulation and even debate about that, whether the gods are pinching off what we could have access to, or the gods have found a way to even direct and portion some of what the elders had created to humankind, whatever you would want to call them, in a way that we otherwise wouldn't have it at all. And so some people would say the only reason we have any access to any kind of magic is because the gods have enabled a flow of some kind, however strong it may be, and others would focus heavily on the fact that, well, there could be more, and the gods know this and aren't letting it through, and so they're restricting us.
There's the half-empty full argument.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, gosh. I don't know where we're at for time, but I guess I would try to look more into histories of research if we had the time at all, and if not, then this is just me saying it because this is something then now that where my wheels are turning of, has anyone tried to find a back door to that well, a deeper well?
Maybe that's what this whole thing is trying to find that.
Well, because they said,
Open that back
and
door.
this is metagaming a little bit because I don't know
Yeah.
what Sam and Nas had researched, but with the assumption that we would get together at some point and discuss everything, that type of undead magic requires a greater depth of arcana, a more ancient
Mhm.
access, or a power to, like, access to a more ancient form of the arcana. Has there been any attempts at that, any documented attempts, or would any of that have been kept in secret?
I will say, without any additional rolls and with the help of inquiry to the Shade Seers that are available, that is very quickly found because records of it occurring are well known, organized, and kept. The details of how are not how it was ever attempted, but there are numerous instances throughout history of arcanists that reach levels of power to where they've almost exhausted what mortals have ever been capable of, as far as we know today, and have sought the ability to increase that flow, if you will, or to access the full pool behind whatever spigot is currently being restricted. Some of that is connected to some of the papers and postulations that you found on these people who believe that we are being restricted from magic, that humankind is being restricted from magic by the gods, and as such are seeking for a way to punch open that flow, if you will. Half a dozen, at least, quickly are able to be noted attempts by people to do this. You find no through line of necromancy. I don't know why I emphasize it that way. Necromancy. Just as a precursor to reconvening with Sam and Nas. There are different types of arcanists. There are wizards of different schools. For varying reasons, it would seem different people have tried at different times.
How recently?
The most recent would be between 50 to 60 years ago.
And they've all failed. Publicly.
Everyone has failed, and many of the accounts end with the utter destruction of the people attempting it. Like they were blown apart
cataclysmic.
by, yes,
yeah,
whatever they were trying to do.
I think at this point Faye's got like one of the books on her head. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
So the relics were made to defeat dragons, and that is why she was researching both. Yes?
maybe if dragons were one of the most difficult creatures out there. The relics could help defeat them. They didn't single-handedly defeat them. They had the gods to help, so it's arguable as to what kind of a difference it made, but... I wonder if the research... Let's talk... Oh, let's go back. Let's talk all together.
Okay, you guys head back?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we will take a break there. Bringing it back in. The Conclave crew returns to the estate. I will say about
Exactly.
4:45, which means you probably have about 2.5 hours till sunset or so. Reconvenes to the to the beginnings of the smells of what is it you guys are having made?
Lamb
Lamb.
and
Lamb.
shrimp scampi, lamb shank with a sauce.
Oh yeah, so
mint
sweet.
sauce?
With a sweet
Yes.
and savory sauce.
Okay, bet.
Sweet savory mushroom sauce.
Ooh.
What would you all like to do?
I'm gonna go to the arts and crafts room and get some string.
Yep.
Get started.
Someone
And
pull up the whatever that site is that Brian made.
Just
Mm-hmm.
pull out the rolling chalkboard or the rolling corkboard.
Uh-huh.
So,
That's for
That's-
fucking cards.
So,
As you can see.
as you can see from this forecast,
I feel like we're all about to do PowerPoint presentation day.
yeah.
I mean, ritual of shared information, kind of, right? We
I
were all
did my
listening.
book report on dragons. I find them to be...
Yeah,
And I
you guys
kicked him,
can
sir.
you can
And
ritual
I
of shared
kicked him,
information.
sir.
So the general stuff discovered is passed between, which does take a good amount of time, but
Mhm.
Does.
Mm.
Think. I mean, if we're putting together a puzzle, this is certainly a piece and probably a few adjoining, but not the whole picture by any means.
Mm-mm.
Well, I guess it makes some sense as to why the Elder Relics are involved then.
But do the relics themselves contain shards of power, or do they give one access to greater power? Do they just increase power that is already had, or do they provide, like if a llama was to put on these boots?
Be a
he
fast
suddenly-
llama. Maybe it's something like breaking them down and harnessing magic inside of them. Maybe if we think about it less as these were relics bestowed to certain individuals, and we think about it as these were conduits of power from creation, which is what necromantic information is looking for, is some sort of a tap into creation power. God power, essentially. Or elder. Is it elder? Chaos? I don't remember which one it is.
Gods and elders are two different sets of
Yeah.
beings. The gods created the elders created us. The elders lost
created
control,
us.
and then the gods rescued us and banished the elders. Effectively.
And these elder relics were made by the elders, not by the gods. Right?
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where my notes got a little sketchy.
But then the gods controlled the limit of power that can go to us. However, these relics were created before that limit, which explains why they're so powerful.
Correct. Did we figure out if these champions created these items, or did the elders bestow these items upon these mortal champions to help fight the dragons?
The latter.
Okay.
The belief was that the elders provided these already powerful, obviously they wouldn't choose your basic
Mhm.
commoner, champions with infusions of their own power essentially embodied within these relics. That essentially
Maybe-
turn them into superhuman level of might.
I mean, the alternative is that they're trying to use them to superpower whatever it is that is being made. Seems less likely. Either way, it can't be good.
Can you imagine if one person used all of them at the same time? That's
I don't
terrifying.
know what they do, so I could imagine quite a bit.
That's fair.
Make them like a god, I suppose.
Like a god or an actual god, depending on their level of ability and
And then they snap
altruism.
their fingers. Hmm.
So, regarding the dragons, Elena had researched the ability to control multiple types of creatures, and not just those belonging to the material plane, but also devils, demons, other planar creatures, and perhaps even dragons?
I guess there's not very many living ones, but for necromantic magic, we found one key important component, which is that they are dead. Which, allegedly, all of them are?
And they want to
So-
break the barrier post-mortem that does not give them access to their sense of self and their level of ability. So you could potentially have a dragon back to
Well-
life. Well,
Presently, the understanding is that when they are brought back, they are shattered in sorts. But this next level, Necromantic 201, if you will, the advanced course, is to bring them back at full power, but also under complete control of your own choosing.
in which of the Draicar have we established were firmly on the side of whatever
bad?
is the opposite of what we're on. I wouldn't, well, just not us.
I think right now the Prime is the one named that we probably shouldn't know, but know.
Mhm.
I don't know if we've confirmed a second because we don't know what those stones mean. We don't know if it's a league, we don't know if it's just a way for them to speak, but if it is a possibility, then I think right now one of the front runners is likely the evocation. And this other one that we recently found was apparently abjuration, but then other ones were not abjuration, necromancy. But then we also found the pentagon. We don't know what they all mean.
Yeah. I don't even know where to tie the string.
Well, that's what we have to find.
There's a few, but
once we find a spot to tie the string, then we can go through the remaining of the web. No pun intended.
huh.
Make this a lot easier.
All we know is that somebody still wants a war, and for whatever reason, the information that we've uncovered hasn't yet to be released to the general public.
I just don't understand why the children have anything to do with this. I mean, we know that it is to find where magic originates from in this, but from these tales it says that they are from the god. So it seems like it's already answered.
I think it's more a question of how to replicate it. They may believe gods or elders or whoever gives the magic, but maybe one day one of them said, hey, why am I not as good as a god? Why am I not as good as an elder? And said, hey, I can do that as well. If I just figure out the trick.
We can say, at least, everyone who has tried to access this power in the past has failed brilliantly and explosively in some cases.
Only takes
that
one to
doesn't-
succeed.
That's it, and that doesn't mean that every attempt has been documented.
I guess
There
that
are multiple
scares me
attempts,
even
but
more if their attempts is with kids. If everything has failed and they're dealing with kids, what does a failure look like with them involved?
I wonder if it's because with children, it's just raw, latent potential. It hasn't been formed, it doesn't know rules yet.
I don't know. I have a feeling. I don't know the history of the wilds as much as others do. But perhaps maybe my master can clarify something for me. We have some of that paper. I could send to him. I'm going to send to him, but for him to explain what to do. Just curious.
The paper's not really a two-way street, but that's...
Oh, he has to have it. Right.
Yeah.
Ah.
But it is effective for sending longer messages than you intend to receive. So, there is that. At least from
I
what
don't
I
think
remember.
the sending would be able to get the information. I'm just curious because the wilds doesn't sound like any of the gods. It sounds like from the beginning in terms of power.
I mean,
What my
You can-
knowledge of it is.
you can put about 250 words on this piece of paper. You can definitely ask all the questions you want to, and then get what you need back slowly. But it's not a terrible idea to do.
Yeah, how many sendings do I got? That's a good question.
You can upcast.
I know, that's the thing.
We have a very powerful wizard coming to our place that we don't know if they're a good or a bad just yet.
Yeah.
That's a true. This might be an
The other thing with the papers too above game is those are for like, you guys are tapped out, we have emergencies, and we need to get shit out really effectively.
Well-
So like, I'm
Yeah,
fine
the-
doing it, but we need to go home and get more if we're gonna use it.
Yeah, I agree.
got 9
I'm,
Sendings are
okay, I'm just.
a recharge.
Exactly. Sendings
I'm
are like,
gonna-
you take a nap. Very long
Well,
nap,
just
we're
for-
good. This is like, we'd have to take a month detour to go get more paper.
Mhm.
I am going to send to Dawnfeather. And I'm going to say, oof. It's in Khaing.
Is the word count is it like Hawaiian where like the words are really
Mm,
long but they mean
no
like
way.
multiple?
Master, I'm interested in the origins of the wilds. Is there a way you can send me as much information about our history as you can?
Muted.
Thank you.
He's not answering.
Well, like a good 20 seconds goes by. And then you hear, oh my. That's a very complicated question, Brightwing.
I'm sure.
I don't know how much I could explain to you through this sort of magic. I don't even know how much is known. But I will learn.
He's going to try. But I don't know, I feel that knowing that might give us a better answer on how this all connects.
You ask the wilds yourself.
I can. It's not in the. It has to be very negative, positive energy. Please tell me your whole history, and it's.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as much as I wish it was that easy, it's.
I just
You have to
wondered if
find-
your connection with them was as rigid as that. If it had to follow something predetermined, like a predetermined ability, like that of a wizard out of a book. Or if there was the opportunity to, I don't know, pray, commune in some way.
I can guess that. There have been times where I have spoken directly to the wilds, but that has been very, very rare, and not of my own asking. It's when they see it as right.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose I can pray tonight and see if my dreams are filled with answers, or at least guidance to the right way.
All right. Well, at least we've got everything in one place.
Now we just have to figure out where to next.
Yeah, I think I'm on a bit of analysis paralysis with all of this stuff. It's just I don't even know what questions I have yet. I think we need more context for questions.
I think if anything right now, the Draicar has to give us whatever is on his mind, her mind, their mind. And then from there...
What if he's not the Draicar? What if it's really her?
Could be either of them. Could be
Or
neither.
neither of them.
Mm-hmm.
This is so confusing.
Could be Brightwing. She could have been with us all along.
Illusions,
Hey.
Brightwing.
I don't like to lie.
That's
Maybe
exactly what
that's-
somebody that is specialized with illusion might say.
And... Oh, goodness.
Because illusionists aren't really lying, they're fabricating the truth.
They're showing you something that is true, but is not a direct portrayal of what is actually
Right.
there.
Going to lie right now.
It's a bad way to
Was
start
that the lie?
Maybe. I couldn't think
You
of
guys are doing
one.
paranoia wrong.
Well, I guess either
That's
way,
the
she,
most Brightwing lie that can exist.
either way, she did just lie.
It's a paradox.
I couldn't
It's the
think of
Brightwing
one.
paradox.
The secret
She's
to a
gonna,
good lie.
she's gonna look at her hair. She's gonna look at her hair.
Mm.
My hair is brown.
My
Going to hell
pen.
now.
Is that the... I don't... It is blue.
The secret to a good lie is to try to retain as much of the truth as possible. Just deflect around the truth.
I will keep that in mind for next time. That's very good.
But that can help you spot a lie as well if you know that.
Oh, I can...
So
That's
sometimes
that
it's not a full diversion. Sometimes it's just in the shadow behind.
Oh, that is good. I mean, I normally pick up lies not from the words said, but more from the heart rate and expression.
One tricky thing about the truth, though, is even saying the truth can still be a lie. I'm going to draw a card from my deck
Yo!
facing me. Brightwing. This is the
Mhm.
3 of diamonds. Would you mind telling Faye what this card is?
Insight check?
Sure, roll an insight
Roll an
check.
insight check.
It's really good. Hold please. I got this math. 27.
Math.
27.
27.
Yo! Alright, you meet the toughened gaze of Nas and are not sure what he's doing right now or whether he's telling the truth about his
I
card.
thought it was meets it beats it.
No, not in lying, insight versus deception. The
Damn.
amount you beat it by in my rules determines things, and beating it by 0 gives you basically nothing. You essentially what it does to meet it and not like roll a 15 is that you can sense that he's intentionally being hard to read. But you don't know what the answer is.
I'm going to turn to Faye. Nas says that that card is the 3 of diamonds, but his face says a lot. But not a lot at the same time.
I'll flip the card. It is the 3 of diamonds.
I don't like this game.
Hold up.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to do before the Draicar gets here?
Hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
You guys want to hurry up and wait?
Yeah. I'll ask.
Okay.
You know, spare time. I'll ask. Sam, how she's doing. Because you know that's
Okay.
a lot.
How am I doing? Well, I'm frustrated, and I'm angry, and I'm sad. I'm glad we got information, but how much help does that do right now?
My master tells me that information might be keen of mind to gather it, but is wisdom to know how to use it. But that takes time to understand how. Time is
It's just-
normally the answer, and seems it still is.
How much time do we have, though?
Don't know. But we will do what we can for you. I know it. But first, we want to keep you safe.
I just don't want to be in hiding forever. They've knocked me down to my lowest, and they're keeping me there.
But if you have to hide forever, it's not going to happen. But if this is the case, you can hide at my home. No, this is over. I think your kids would really like the forest. That is a very last resort sort of thing, because it was going to work out.
Still want them to have a normal childhood. And there are so many things they haven't seen. They've yet to see my homeland. So much of their culture. and kids that are like them, I guess. If they inherited my sort of ability, people who can teach them, help them understand, just like they did for me.
I can understand in being grateful for masters.
I'm just concerned that if they're still here, when that happens, there's no one here that can teach them. And they might be taught the wrong thing, or they might be taken advantage of like all the other kids.
I can't guarantee that won't happen. But I know everyone will do their best. Sorry this has all happened to you.
It's not you that needs to apologize.
But I feel someone should say it at least.
I appreciate it regardless.
I don't know if this will mean much coming from me, but I think you are a good mother and a good person. No matter what anyone thinks.
Thank you.
Brightwing, roll a persuasion check.
What the fuck, bro?
Persuasion?
What, no wisdom check for me?
Yeah, for real. Persuasion? Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be 11.
11.
Okay.
Okay.
Stop it.
Well, 12. I have a +1. I didn't think I have a +1. I have a +1. It's a 12.
Okay. Good to know.
There you
Okay.
go.
Okay. That's it.
Like, I'm not great with words.
Okay. You guys finish conversations, help finish preparations, and eventually get to sunset. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
The oranges and reds of the setting sun begin to paint through the windows, and shortly after, you hear a poof, poof, poof on the front door. Carlina. Oh, should I let them in, or do you want to?
Go ahead.
All right.
Is Sam supposed to be hiding?
I'll be in another room where they won't be.
Okay. Are you trying to be within earshot or anything, or
Yep.
action reachability? Okay.
Yep.
So like an adjacent room
Yeah.
to the dining room,
She's
essentially,
in the
for now.
butler's.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I'm in the kitchen. I'm just helping cooking. at this
You're in the
point.
little staging area just off the kitchen where the butlers
The
gather
kitchen
their
with Rhino.
things and then bring it in. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Carlina. Oh, welcome. Please, right this way. Then eventually comes back into view towards you all. Rest of you in the dining room, I assume.
Or wherever. I still don't fully understand the layout of this house.
Well, It's less about layout and more about the fact that food is like ready to be served.
Sure,
Unless
then
you-
yes.
Okay. Carlina comes back with 2 figures, neither of whom look familiar. One looks to be similar in like facial structure and body type, sort of this lithe lankiness to Isabella, but human looking and more of a dirty blonde. And the other figure looks to be a mid 50s ish, once blonde, now graying human man with longish, wavy hair just above the shoulders, and some of it like pulled up and tied into a small bun. Both wearing what seem like relatively normal academic-ish robes. Food will be served shortly, so please be seated. And Carlina scuttles off.
I'll make a note to Carlina. I'll pull her aside and maybe like kind of follow her off to the side and just speak very quietly and say, once dinner is on the table, we'll take care of anything else that they need. If you could give us some space, please.
Of course, Miss Rosewood. Scurries out.
There's 2 people though?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The man, if everybody is willing, would it be alright if I cast just a bit of magic to ensure things are on the up and up here?
We're allowed to do the same.
By all
Say
means.
it, then I will cast detect magic.
Okay, with a spell slot?
Yeah.
Okay. He does the same, it looks like. A similar
Okay.
set of motions. And blasts out this of energy. You see him kind of contemplating each of you, given your magical items. You see a few pings of magic on him. I think you may have... Did you do this before at the gala?
Probably. Maybe. I mean, I did. Maybe.
I can't remember if you did or not, but in any case, you see a ping on one of his hands where it looks like a ring would be, a ping somewhere inside his like robe, like where maybe a wand or a small object of some kind would be kept, like in his belt area, and a ping from roughly here-ish in the center of his chest, like perhaps some kind of magical amulet. You don't see any of those items.
Is his body emitting? As if he is illusorized?
Can I investigate
Yes.
them and see if... Okay. Well, I would...
Yeah, with detect magic, you would gather that there is illusion magic present on his form. And on
That's it. Like on
the woman next to him as well, who you can probably assume to be Isabella, or who you think Isabella is. He contemplates for a few moments, looking up and around as well, as you often have.
in the
for-
dining room with the massive picture
Yeah.
of the fucking Rosewood family with
Yep.
Faye in her big freaking dress. Oh my god, I forgot I put that in there.
You see him contemplate that for a moment, and then look down to you. I appreciate you welcoming both of us into your home, especially given these unique circumstances. Perhaps we will sit.
Of course. Start opening bottles of wine. We were relieved, in a sense, to hear of your well-being after the events of the other night. We had attempted to inquire, in the moment and found a terrified replica in your place.
I'm gonna wait for Megan to be back. Oh, there. Okay.
We can hear you. It's just like super speed
Yeah,
when it comes
you're
through.
back though.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
heck.
He kind of gives a somewhat small grin. A simple mislead spell. Quite useful in these sorts of circumstances. The events of that night are much of what I wanted to talk to you about. As food starts to come out, he pauses, waits for servants to put things down, then, as they leave, picks up again. Things were curious on my side of the courtyard, but from what I hear, you all did some impressive work on the other side. I am curious how you came to be there and what you know of what occurred. It is not often I am attacked brazenly in public, and I am seeking answers.
We were given a tip that something untoward might happen. No concrete evidence, no details, just a whisper of a rumor. And
Might I ask your source, or is that protected?
we've not been given consent to share our source. So for their sake, I'll withhold that for right now. It is not anyone who has been publicly problematic.
And also, given the circumstance, could potentially lead to even more issues if positions are not affirmed before information is divulged. It's a very delicate subject.
Indeed. That you have my agreement on. So you were given notice in advance to watch for something. Any more specifics than that?
Oh. Literally nothing.
Your performance, was that part of the cover for your endeavors, or?
I was able to secure a performance, and that was what gave us access to the event. I've got some connections here in Ilmara still, so took a little bit of a favor call in, but
And I noticed, I hope you will not mind my perhaps intrusion on your ongoing night, but you seem to be conversing with quite a few of the attendees. Did you learn anything of value in respect to what happened?
that night, I am glad that your opinion of us is so high. But that night did not go any way that we would have anticipated.
We are afflicted by our own bias to see the plan. We are there to prevent.
diocese? Did you have other intentions or perspectives there?
Our intention was to keep people safe. I
Well-
think we did decently.
From what I hear, you did indeed. I have my means of knowing things of import. It comes with a station like mine. When I need to know something, and it would appear that you are a group of some notoriety and impact in recent months. You were involved as well in an event in Olea. I don't presume that was the same sort of thing, though.
Everyone paying attention, the fur is bristled beyond words.
Okay.
I think, if anything, that was more of an instance of right place, wrong time. At risk of potential impropriety, I prefer to know what I can. Looks at you, Eclipse. You are related to Mr. Benoît of the consortium?
Yes, that's my father.
I'm sorry to hear of his disappearance.
Insight check.
Roll an insight check.
That's not good.
You wasted it on me!
It's not good. 11. It's 11. It's not good.
This, you can tell with your passive insight, is one of the most capable people you have met, particularly in the field of playing whatever cards he has close to his chest. And you cannot even begin to get a sense of cracking whether there is deception in anything he's saying right now.
I'm doing it one time. Go do it. I'm gonna do it. I'll tell you right now. Determined.
I was
Like
also
they said.
informed. Oh, go ahead.
Like they said, right place, wrong time, mostly for the people that did that.
Hmm.
There was nothing we could do about it.
From what I observed, a man was brought into custody by the guard in Olea for that event. A student, if I'm not mistaken. Did you know him?
No.
Were you able to learn anything of him after those events?
I learned that he was a spineless piece of shit.
He gives a slow, knowing look at Eclipse as she says that, and then turns towards you, Faye, with like a slight expectant look, like you might answer beyond what she did, given her emotion connection.
We learned that actually, through some forensics, that it was indeed him, but that the people who assisted in the access of the room in the first place, but the people who seemed to be the apparent ringleaders had also been given some kind of magical items and made their getaway that way.
The way
I'm
you
sure the
speak of
Ivory
them.
Guard has some kind of public record of how that interrogation went. It was orchestrated by one of the Ivory Guard captains herself. We were present for it, but there should be an account.
You see him, like, sit back a little bit, steeple his fingers, and think for a moment, or pause for a moment. I hope you will not take this the wrong way, but the Ivory Guard was rather absent from the events at the gala, and my ongoing trust in their interests are shaky.
Good to know we've got something in common from that event.
Mhm. Moreover, it is not particularly in my interest for my name to be publicly connected to inquiry over these sorts of investigations. People have imaginative minds.
Have you been implicated in some way?
Not that I know of.
Inside check.
Roll an insight check.
I'll roll that inside check too.
Sure, you asked the question. You can roll it as well.
That's a natural fucking 20.
Let's
Oh
go.
my. For a total of?
Not a-
25.
Let's go.
Mine is a natural 19.
Let's
a
go.
72.
For a total of?
Inside check. 28.
Yahoo!
28. Okay. Faye, you get a very similar impression as what Brightwing got earlier when she was trying to read Nas. A recognition that there is a care to his demeanor and words, that he is attempting not to be, not to misspeak or misstep in the conversation. You can't necessarily be sure whether that is out of distrust of you, intended deception, or deception behind what's coming from his own mouth, or just a general sensitivity to the topic at hand. Brightwing, with a 28, you get a sense that he is on the forefront, at the surface of the question, being honest, in that he doesn't know himself to be implicated, but that there is an interest and almost a curiosity behind his words and the direction of the conversation, almost as if he's trying to pick at whether he is. But
Okay.
even without implication, it is not commonplace for Draicars to interest themselves in these sorts of things. And thoughts could get askew, perhaps.
You are worried that you will be inquired.
He glances at you with like, I prefer not to be publicly connected to these sorts of things for my own image and sake.
With
However,
all the respect I can muster, are you? In any way?
he gives you somewhat similar to look to what he gave Brightwing, but more of a almost there's a little bit of surprise in his eyes that you would ask such a forward, blunt question. No. But there are...
Just roll it.
Inside check.
Roll
Just
an
roll
insight
it.
check.
Just everyone roll it. Everyone has to roll this one.
No, there's
Just gotta
no
roll
such
it.
thing.
Mm-mm.
That's not as good. That's a 20.
I have
That's
a
a
facade to maintain.
26.
Excuse you.
20 what?
26.
Mhm.
26. You get that same impression.
Fuck, that is good, yo.
This guy's really good. Damn it.
A intentional care to appear stoic at all times and doing it well.
Should have shifted. Get freaking advantage.
Like all the feathers pop.
No, I am not, but these events carry weight and impact for the realm as a whole. And it is part of our duty as Draicar to maintain balance. And any close connection to what is occurring in these instances is not particularly conducive to that. However, not knowing what is happening or why makes that job even more difficult. And so I seek answers of my own.
I think that we all agree with that, and I mean no offense in my question. The only reason I state is a man of your station. Put bluntly, I don't know who I'm talking to right now. I don't know if you indeed are a Draicar, if you are somebody impersonating a Draicar. You could even not be in this room presently, for what I understand of the power capable of a Draicar.
That is all quite fair. And I imagine there is very little that I could do to fully earn your trust in that way, given my speciality. Perhaps a small demonstration that I am not just some commoner posing. And he waves his hand up in the air and then brings it down slowly, and as he does, steps to the side and out of his chair and looks down at the seat where he was, and you see him at the instant that in the chair appears him. The one who stood up goes invisible. And then you hear a voice from the standing spot. This is what I did at the gala. It is...
Is my detect magic still? I don't think it's still up.
No, it's not still up.
Okay, that's it.
And then you continue to hear the voice, but the figure in the chair begins to gesture and open its mouth, and you also hear the voice coming from that figure. It is very useful for dipping out of difficult situations. And then
The entire time, or just at the end?
just at the end. This
Insight
thing
check.
cannot cast the magic that I cast at the gala. Roll an insight check.
On the illusory double that you are looking at, and not the actual one.
It's not good. It's not good. She's not gonna beat it. It's just 13. I mean, things.
Tough to
Move on.
say.
What is
Move
the
on.
girl doing?
Briarwing's so frustrated.
She's
I'm
been
frustrated.
sitting and eating quietly, not speaking up, not interjecting, just sort of observing and keeping attention on where it belongs, which is away from her.
Have you your own magic?
I learn a bit from my father, but nowhere to his level. My skill set is more to organize. And there's a slight shimmer in the chair. Brightwing and Eclipse. Sam, what's your passive perception?
18.
Okay, all three of you would just catch this, like, heat wave shimmer that happens. And then the figure in the chair speaks up again. It is gone. This is me. Though I suppose that's difficult to prove, unless you wish to. And he holds out his hand. Generally in the direction of Nas, since he has seemed the most suspicious.
Well, if we're to begin trust, I suppose now's the time as any. And I will not touch his hand.
Okay. More than anything, I come here tonight seeking what you know. From what I have gathered, you are a curious group with an unusual level of connection to some of the more intriguing events of the last month or so in Kathos. And I am low on that sort of informant at this time. Is there anything
Keep
you can tell
using that
me?
word to describe us.
Which one is that?
Curious.
Oh, indeed.
Would you consider yourself a fan?
You know what? You see, like, this twinge of a smirk. I have, before my time as a Draicar, been out and about with fellow curious people, and you all remind me of those times a bit. They are fond memories, so in that way, perhaps you carry some kind memories.
Sense of nostalgia, perhaps.
Indeed. Could I have everybody but Brightwing remove their headphones for a moment? Brightwing,
Mm-hmm.
when Faye asks that question and he looks over at her and pauses for a minute or a second and gives that answer, there is a slight break in his very composed demeanor. And like a pause that comes not from carefully thinking through his words, but from being caught off guard and thrown off his game, even, you could say, for a second. And there is a small waver in his voice when he gives the answer.
Okay.
I again know that it is not particularly easy to trust someone like me, given my background, but my hope is that your intent for what you have done and what you are doing would come with the pursuit of answers and greater goals that perhaps I can assist with. And we can have a trade of useful understanding.
Given a man of your experience, then, being in similar situations as us, if you found yourself back in your day, sitting in a home of one of your curious party mates, with one of the most powerful individuals in the land, eating duck and asparagus, asking you questions about what you may know, would you reveal what you knew first?
I suppose it might depend on how valuable and how difficult to obtain the information I had would be compared to the information he had.
We
If
find
we are to make-
ourselves waiting with an individual that told us specifically he was lacking informants in the area that we are being questioned on.
Indeed.
So I ask, in response for anything that we may know, what do you have to offer us?
Roll a persuasion check.
Nope. 11.
Okay.
Wait, I have an A by this. I don't remember why. Hang on a sec. Because it might
It's
might be a
to-
thing.
I think it's to get the
Oh, to
deer.
learn. Yeah, known to the general public. Yeah, no. 11.
It is difficult to say, because I don't know what exactly it is that you seek. If I did, perhaps I could give you better answers. There are quite a few things that I do know, despite what darkness I find myself in on these particular issues. Are there things you would ask of me in particular?
You said that you have some sort of I'll call it a resilience or a skepticism of the god. Are there any others that you have a skepticism of?
The breadth of that question makes it difficult to answer with anything but yes. When you are in a business like mine, where portraying truths that may not tell the full story is commonplace, you come to suspect most people of doing the same. And at a certain point in the echelons of society, most people find themselves walking further down that route. I trust very few of the more authoritative figures. At least not in totality. There is usually some other motives going on, and not all typically innocent.
I suppose I have at least one other. Are you privy to any of the information regarding the invasions a few months ago on some of the lesser towns in the area?
You speak of the kidnappings.
Mm-hmm.
I am aware they occurred. To my knowledge, they are not connected with the sorts of events we are talking about here, but do you believe that to be incorrect?
More so looking for information from an individual that may know more than us about a given situation that we've been pondering on for some time.
That one I cannot say. I have looked into as much, though once again, the curiosity you have piqued, I wonder if I should.
The further you look. So we're just making sure that we're not missing anything. It's an itch we can't scratch. But in this situation that we find ourselves in as a whole, we find ourselves in a moment of, multiple moments of imposter syndrome. Who are we? Why us? Like Eclipse said earlier, right place, wrong time in Alea. Got lucky with a tip at the gala. I think we're finding ourselves with with limited allies and information that we have no ability to connect.
I think perhaps we share more in that regard than you would assume. Less of the imposter part. It's difficult to consider yourself below a particular event when you are about as high as it can be. But the rest... My hope is that perhaps the answers you don't have might sometimes be in my purview, and vice versa. Don't mean to press, but again I would ask whether you know more of what happened.
I think it's important to share before that. Not
Hey.
always.
Perhaps just show we can be trusted with us. Maybe you could answer a question that would certain my trust in you.
I'm listening.
Why are you so interested in Faye? Why does she cut you off? I have observed you several times in our interactions, and Faye has been one that has piqued your interest more than once. Even just now you tried to hide it, but she deflects your very carefully constructed barrier. Why is that?
Roll a persuasion check with advantage.
Oh boy. Oh boy! Oh, that's just so much. It's a 19! That's
19 total?
yeah, 18 total.
Okay. Looks at you, Faye. You
Panic.
You spoke of nostalgia in the time before my current life. Looks back at Brightwing. She reminds me of someone from that time. Not all the memories from that time bring the same fond feelings. Some are more difficult. Will that suffice?
For me, I suppose, but I think perhaps Faye might have more. If it so wish.
Glances at Faye and then continues the glance around to everybody.
Not
Leans
all
back.
of us have ways to change the way we look, to change the individuals that we can be perceived to be a part of, who our families are. One thing we are limited by is our form. Each of us tied to individuals we wish to protect. Well, I'm sure that we share the same concern for family, and I'll look at the woman. I feel we need some sort of reassurance that, regardless of the information, whether favorable or not in your case, we and our families are left at peace.
Do you speak of peace from my own questions? Or peace from exterior influence?
Being a man of somebody that's able to spin words certain ways, I don't need somebody going out of here and saying all of this information that we may have to the first person that's willing to hear and putting a manhunt or showing up on a wanted poster in the morning.
I see. To whatever end I can earn your trust, my intent is to share nothing of what I learn here with anyone.
Insight check.
Roll an insight check.
19. I don't think I'll ever roll an insight that high again.
Hey, that's cute.
That to you seems based in true intent. And roll a deception check, Mr. None of Us Can Look Different.
No, I said not all of us. I did not say none of us.
You continued with phrases like, we can't do this willy-nilly, blah, blah. There was some deception under what you were saying.
18. 3 of the 4 of us can change our form.
Okay.
Which 3?
Continue.
Yeah.
I'll look at the others. I think it's time to make a decision. Are we willing to risk our livelihood at this point? And I'll look at Eclipse.
If I get any word from my family or about my family when this meeting is over, nothing will save you from me.
Roll an intimidation check.
$23.
Damn!
Let's go.
That's a scary
Okay.
cat.
Both you and Brightwing would see not by any means fear in his eyes.
Oh, I don't expect him to be afraid of me.
Right. But
I'm just like, the threat is real.
but there is respect that you see in the look back at you and an acknowledgement of your devotion to whatever it is you're pursuing, and to your family in particular.
And I'll look at Faye.
Look up at the portrait on the wall. These people have given me everything I have. If I feel like who am I to gamble with what they've gifted me? But I think we might have to for the sake of keeping them safe in the long run.
Right Wing, you're comfortable?
I think my entire life has been met with discomfort by being so different, and my people and here. So I don't mind a bit more.
I will stare for like an uncomfortable 8-10 seconds and not say anything at the Draicar.
He holds the stare with a calm evaluation.
I'm more so waiting for somebody else, just in case that's not clear.
Mhm. You're muted.
I'll
Sam.
mind link with you.
Okay.
Just fucking tell it. Like, if you can't hear her mouth, but she's nomming away on a charcuterie board, just listening.
Real.
Just, this tea is good.
We asked the questions that we did because if you are being honest, then it sounds as if you may be the target to blame for the events at the gala.
That is a bit of a confusing sentence. If I am being honest, why would I be the target?
You have good intentions. And the people truly behind it do not.
They seek to use your visage, impersonate you, and pin the entirety of the event on you.
You learned this how?
Eclipsed it.
From the Ivory Guard.
You trust me after the events you've mentioned. I don't trust them either. So they weren't there for me.
It was by means of cleric forming a ritual to speak to the dead. One of
And
which
you're not alone in this. We believe there is one other.
someone
Being
has already
implicated.
been-
Partner of sorts, for who is being implicated.
And she has already been implicated from other prior events that have shaken the continent.
And she is one of us.
Pop my head out.
Oh? From the door?
Yeah. Holding the
Okay.
charcuterie board.
Pour a glass of wine
Yeah,
and hold
I'm
it up
holding
for
it
you.
like the
Okay. I'll
He
just
looks
pour it
over.
into your
Welcome to
cup
the
then.
club of being wanted by everybody. I'll take a seat.
I am sorry. The dead spoke in a way as to implicate me. In what
Stating
happened.
that you, and also a tan woman with a thick Sildaran accent, apparently had gone to the Flashfire Company and established this entirety. The attack, everything planned.
And
You
there are to be
see-
no survivors.
You see a, even the less insightful, a look of concern go over the face of Isabella. He maintains a somewhat stoic face, but she seems worried. And there is no possibility this person was mistaken.
Unfortunately for you, it was quite specific. The vagueness was more so directed at who we believe fits the description of the accomplice, which would be our friend here.
Who is already being accused for the assassinations of your political figure?
True, if it helps.
And you believe these events to be connected? By the person or people pulling the strings behind it? Well, in the case of my inclusion in the witness's story, they have either deceived the guard, or they have themselves had their minds deceived on what they saw.
That is what is confusing.
I'd considered.
They are. The interrogation was done on the dead. Dead from. I have such a spell. And the dead can lie and tell the truth, but they cannot. I have to say. Have such a direct answer. I guess is the best. It's from what Eclipse has said. It was scripted. It was so.
It felt too clean. It didn't sound like the recollection of a man who had been struck down. It sounded like someone of sound mind reading off a card.
And our friend has a pretty clean alibi.
Also, from how the spell works, the person that you were talking to has the memories of that person, so they would know who is friend and who is enemy. And from the people talking to this person, I believe most people there, they would perceive as enemies. They wouldn't talk with such decorum.
You may know more about this than we do. I know there are more powerful versions of magical persuasion, but I don't know if that would persist post-mortem. But the alteration of memories might.
If you mean charms or something of that nature, no. But you speak of scripted recollection.
Yes.
That would persist. If a memory has been rewritten, that will be the memory that stays.
That is one powerful person to
on that
figure
scale.
the mind.
You said that it was one of the riflemen that they interrogated.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever did this could not have known who, which means that they would have all had to have the same effects.
And we had noticed on the night of some sort of presence. They weren't quite there, they weren't themselves. There was
A
How did
disconnect?
you describe it, Eclipse?
The before when we were fighting
While,
them?
while we were fighting them, there was one instant they were different.
They
weren't
looked disconnected.
themselves.
It
Like
wasn't.
they were being persuaded
It was
to do what
beyond
they were doing.
persuasion. I've seen what persuasion looks like. It's lethargic. This was one step beyond that,
Wasn't their choice.
but it looked like
Like a puppet.
they were just on for the ride. They weren't.
Compulsion.
You see the Draicar thinking very hard, pausing, and seemingly wrestling.
And can
mentally.
you see how, if compulsion magic was used, and if the assumption, I mean, anyone who got to this level knew of your connection, knew of your abilities with illusion-based magics, would make that same jump of, well, of course they were compelled. And who better to do it?
Indeed. I am going to have you all roll a group persuasion check. He seems to be wrestling with whether or not to continue the path of conversation that is at hand.
18.
29.
11.
14.
15. I rolled a
Okay.
16.
Oh, buddy. That was really good.
Okay.
Good roll, that's a good roll.
For what it's worth, we are inclined to believe that you are not involved. We have gotten to a point in our exploration where when one piece doesn't fit, it's likely that none of them fit.
Perhaps it is clear to you that I am not involved. It may be more difficult to prove that to others, especially if the players at hand in this issue are of my same station.
Have you cause to suspect your peers?
There is a subgroup that has wavering goals, questionable intent, not all of the Draicar are aware of it. But this level of arcane influence and my implication in it, and the connections you've made to what happened in the deaths of important figures, would all suggest suspicion may belong with this group.
Do you think it is... You said that not all of the Draicar are aware of the existence of this subgroup. Do you think it is your knowledge of this subgroup that makes you a target, regardless of whether or not you agree with them? Just because you're not part of that circle and you are aware of it, you are therefore a target.
I will have you roll a straight charisma check. And I will say you can make it with advantage.
Okay. Oh my god. Which dice?
It's got to be the nearest dice.
Nearest is for investigation, sir. That is a dirty 20. The other one was a 1.
He sits back and contemplates all of you for a good minute. It starts to get almost awkward, except that you can see that there are gears turning. I believe that whether or not my trust in you all is misplaced, that if you did attempt to betray me in some way, I could likely wipe you all from the room rather easily. Let that be an auxiliary piece to the trust we have established. I don't necessarily mean it as a threat. But
I take it as a compliment, personally.
and he waves his hand slightly, and there's a shimmer. And the humanoid forms of both figures drop, and you see the Genasi forms that you have seen. And then he looks decently long at each of you, particularly at Faye. I imagine I may be the target because I was one of them. And he pulls open the vest that he's wearing, and you see an amulet. And he takes it off and sets it on the table. You see please hold.
Uh-oh.
Which one is it?
Four oval-like shapes rotating through each other to form this, what is essentially a 8-pointed interlocking, almost looks like a flower, except that in the center is what could pretty clearly be identified as an iris and pupil. It looks like 4 rotating eyes surrounded by 4 diamonds. And as he takes it off and sets it on the table, his form shifts again. and you see a taller than the Genasi, probably over 6 feet. Looks humanoid, humanish, thin and spindly, with angular facial features, very pale skin, platinum blonde hair that's in a ponytail past his shoulder blades,
It's your
light
dad.
gray eyes above a long, thin nose. And that's where we'll pick up next week.
As a wine glass
week
shatters on the
after.
floor.
Matt, the week after.
Mm-hmm.
Don't.
That's where we'll pick up in 2 weeks.
I'm gonna puke.
We got there.
Yup.
You guys and your damn persuasion rolls.
I have been part of too many no-face groups, Matt.
Holy mackerel.
We got the last symbol though. We got all 5. We collected all the Infinity Stones, guys.
At least we finally confirmed he was actually one of them.
Yeah.
Was.
Which
a little
that,
terrifying.
well,
Was.
was.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Oh boy.
Favorite
Oh,
moment?
boy.
Fuck you.
Where the frick are the kids?
I think Anneka taking her headset off while we were doing the scry was one of my
Yeah.
favorites.
That
That
was
was like that
yeah.
was such a choice. I was like, "You good?" And it was like, "I'm just."
We were all
Like,
like,
we're-
wait, are
No.
We're
Yeah, it was a
supposed
moment
to
of like,
be.
"Are we all supposed to?" And it was just no, it was just a choice. And I was like, "All right, that's yeah, I respect it."
Brian pitched it to me before session. I was like, that's a good idea.
Alright,
We can do that.
it's a choice you make.
I
It
loved
was
the
great.
hand cramp that I got from the research dump. Like, I don't think I have color coded the notes. Like, it is there.
Yeah, we got all that
Yeah,
shit.
we got. Oh, we got.
We were talking about
gods.
how
There's so much
notes were
information
different. She wrote more than me this time.
Yo.
by a lot. Yeah.
By
That was a lot. That was a lot.
And I stopped at a point.
Oh man, yeah, well, you guys' hecking rolls in this campaign. 2 29s to find information.
We got
And
shit
then-
to do.
We are investigative. We are persuasive. That is all we know how to
I
do.
see that.
I will threaten a mage with their life.
Listen, Matt.
Every
You
chance I
Real.
get.
throw a cliff at me. I'm not gonna climb it. But
Ask us to do anything even
Anything
remotely
else,
athletic.
Remind me to get this out of the damn
And we have a
political
20%
sphere
success rate.
and back onto the mountains.
I'll just be here being
Holy
a smart
We're
man.
aleck.
not going
I'm
back.
cool.
We're
I
we're
don't
not
got-
going back to the fucking mountains.
Send me back.
You can't
Oh.
take
I
it.
think
Make
my
us-
Goodness.
favorite moment was how frustrated I was getting, but how I know frustrated Brightman was getting, because she's like, "This is my thing. You know, reading people is my thing, and I can't read you. This sucks."
Yeah. I think you guys rolled a 25 and a 26 on various insight checks that he rolled exactly the same number at on his D20.
Frick you.
Freak you.
But you hit a few that were good enough to reveal some stuff, and you hit some charisma
What
checks.
does she look like? Did she change shape?
No. She still looks like a Genasi.
So he's matching her.
Whoa.
That would seem to be the
But he
case.
said
Whoa.
daughter.
Could be
Mhm.
lying.
It could be adopted.
Could
She
be
is
adopted.
tall and thin and has gray hair and is blonde. Like,
He adopted her when he lost you.
That's fucked up.
he never had me.
No.
Damn,
Never
that's
had
even
you.
worse. Yikes.
Freaking
Also, Matt trying to cover for reacting when I said deer were walking past my window was the funniest fucking
Yeah,
thing ever.
dear.
He's like, deer! And I was like, got him.
I
Made it. I just saw him, was like, holy shit.
when I asked that question about the nostalgia, and Matt was like, everybody but Braywing take off their headphones. I messaged Brian and I was like, I hit the red button.
Yeah.
And I'm not sorry.
I'm not sorry. Well,
was like,
Well,
we-
I don't know if you even meant to do it or not, but you as Megan acted the line in such a way that you seemed like you were needling.
Yeah.
Oh. I was just trying to be like, I was just trying to relate.
Yeah,
Like-
so the way that I don't know if anyone else noticed, but the way that
yeah,
you
it sounded
acted
like
it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, like
Nostalgia.
a nostalgia, huh?
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
that I as the
I got that too.
Draicar took that land, and that had an effect that.
That was Faye trying to take advantage of him in a moment of vulnerability and trying to make him feel comfortable in that moment of vulnerability.
It did not.
Well, it
That's
did
not
the
how
opposite.
it landed for
Oh,
other
great.
reasons.
Excellent.
It
Ugh.
was actually each time that you leaned back in your chair that we started asking the harder press questions also, because that's how we view him doing it. And then a lot of the time he's like forward, and then as soon as you lean back, that's when we're like, okay, this, okay, that, okay, this, and then.
Oh boy, I'm gonna
I
have
just
to
gotta
start
say,
raising
next time we
DCs
have
on-
dinner with the Draicar,
No,
I'm
you don't.
shifting, okay? So I
Mm.
get advantage.
True. It only lasts for a minute though.
I'll keep doing it. I got it 4
Yeah.
times.
Yo.
4 minutes. If
All
you
right.
did it while you were under a seeming, no one would know you were doing it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to shift the entire thing either. So.
Yeah.
Well, I believe that next week, pending everyone's availability, we will be doing a talking Aanthara, which we have not done for a long ass time.
Oh my god.
So there will be some stuff to talk about. Holy mackerel. Okay. Until then, and then until 2 weeks from now for the next session when we can finish this conversation. Adios.